It all starts by showing an old cuckoo clock hitting 7 in the evening. Soon, the little wooden bird pops out, making noise and announcing the time. At that moment, a young man answers a communicator and lets them know he has already arrived at the location. He confirms that the Korean time zone matches their arrangement perfectly. Relaxing on the floor after the job, the guy calmly reports that the target has already been taken care of. Looking at his own clothes, Kang Min grumbles that the only annoying thing about coming back to the country is this disguise. Apparently, he is wearing a school uniform with his name engraved on the chest. Lighting up a smoke, the boy laments that being a student means he cannot buy more of these. While walking down the streets, the craving hits hard, wishing he had a whole pack in his hand. Standing at the crosswalk, he regrets not having filled his suitcase before traveling. Kids even used to buy these things for their parents back in the day. But the laws have gotten really strict nowadays. Looking up at the sky, he notices that the country has changed beyond recognition during his 10 years away. It even looks like someone built an entire city straight out of the future. Everywhere you look, luxury sports cars dominate the busy streets. The modern scenery really catches the guy's attention as he watches the traffic flow. Even the standard of living of the people on the street seems to have gone up quite a bit compared to the past. The whole environment has transformed completely, turning into a place full of new things. He even spots something that has grown quite a bit in size and gets confused by the situation. But it was actually just a giant rubber duck in the middle of the lake, catching everyone's attention. Despite all the modernity, the old cherry blossom trees remain exactly the same, decorating the park. Just then, an excited little boy runs by asking if his mom saw the big duck. A family walks peacefully, chatting about having a delicious stew for dinner. Min just watches the petals flying with the spring breeze. The beauty of the landscape ends up holding the young man's attention for a moment of peace. A lovely couple passes by, commenting that the falling flowers look like popcorn raining from the trees. The father of another group soon suggests taking his son to the movies to eat something tasty and enjoy the day. Hearing these casual interactions from normal families, the young man stays completely silent. Students also walk by, excitedly talking about their secret classes at school. And so he continues his solitary walk beneath that tunnel of colorful trees. The wind hits his face, bringing a nostalgic feeling that leaves him deep in his own thoughts. Suddenly, a female voice calls him darling in his mind, bringing back an old memory. However, he sighs in frustration at not having even 1 second of peace to enjoy his own memories. At that moment, a weird device in his pocket starts beeping, showing a detailed map on the screen. Holding the tracker, Kang Min decides that his break is over, and it is time to get to work. A poster on the wall clearly states that selling products to minors under 19 is strictly prohibited. The sun begins to set, painting the city sky in an orange late afternoon hue. He finds an old convenience store and comments on how the neon signs are placed right above the doors. Walking up to the entrance, the guy feels like he finally found a place with a real neighborhood vibe. The inside of the little shop is pretty cramped and packed with shelves of everyday goods. Sliding the glass door, he excuses himself as he enters the establishment. Not seeing anyone at the counter, Kang Min asks if there is a clerk around. Since the place seems completely empty, the only option is to wait a bit. Looking at the displayed items, he wonders if it wouldn't be better to just finish his smoke outside. Out of nowhere, an older man appears, crouching in the back of the store while arranging some boxes. Staring at the boy, the shopkeeper asks in a serious tone if a student should really be looking to smoke. Without losing his composure, Kang Min makes up a lie on the spot, saying he is just running an errand for his dad. To prove his story, he pulls out a very exclusive credit card and hands it to the man. The black and gold card has a mysterious symbol engraved right in the center, drawing a lot of attention. The old man stares at the object with a sharp look, realizing something is off. He turns his back, trying to hide his surprise, but ends up knocking some things off the shelf due to nerves. Kang Min comments that he has watched a lot of Korean dramas and thought the man would be a regular shopkeeper from one of those shows. But the old man quickly denies it, revealing that he also returned from abroad not too long ago. Amused by the situation, the young man says that this is a tremendous twist of fate. With a darker tone, he states that there is one more huge coincidence between the two of them. Apparently, the friendly man used to work in the exact same dangerous line of business as him back overseas. Getting straight to the point, the guy reveals he knows the shopkeeper is actually a hired mercenary. In an extremely fast move, the old man tries to land a fatal strike, but Kang Min dodges with ease. Holding an improvised blade, the veteran prepares for real combat, confirming his identity. Simply opens a bag of chips and asks as calmly as possible if the man was sent there to finish him off. Keeping up the irony, he praises how well informed the veteran is about the whole situation. Furious at his audacity, the older man accuses the boy of betraying the organization that took them in. He charges forward, yelling that Kang Min took out his own allies before running away like a coward. The young man dodges another dangerous attack, while hearing that the veteran was sent specifically to handle this problem. A powerful, wide strike cuts through the air, but the target jumps back without breaking a sweat. With the impact of the charge, the store's products go flying and scatter all over the floor. Taking advantage of a gap in the fight, the boy thoughtfully looks at his black card. The veteran explains that the organization divides its members using colored cards to define everyone's ranks. Among all the existing categories, the black color carries an absolute and terrifying weight. This restricted tier is only given to the absolute elite of that dangerous underworld. But crouching on the floor, the tense mercenary confesses he had never seen one of those up close until today. Kang Min casually cracks his knuckles while being praised for reaching the top at such a young age. The older man's eyes show pure caution when facing such a monstrous opponent. Taking off his school tie, the guy gets ready, making his confused opponent ask where his tool is. Empty-handed, he calmly explains that airport security confiscated all his gear. At that, the veteran points a firearm and says he is very disappointed with the carelessness of someone so important. Snapping the blade of a box cutter, Kang Min warns that the first rule of a clash is getting a good tool. The older man is completely confused, not understanding what is happening there. Flicking the broken piece with his finger, the boy continues the lesson, stating that the second rule is focusing on a surprise attack. In a lightning-fast move, the young man leaps over his opponent, catching him totally off guard. The impact of the strike knocks the veteran to the store floor in a matter of seconds. The sudden charge causes a heavy injury, leaving his adversary at a massive disadvantage. Fallen and out of breath, the shopkeeper glares at the boy, asking the reason for all of this. Gripping the guy's collar tight, he demands to know why someone so important would betray their own organization. Quite calmly, Kang Min adjusts his tie, pointing out that someone with the veteran's track record should know how things work. Since the man must have enjoyed many perks in the past, the young man returns the question, wanting to know the reason for his rebellion. The adversary's face shows a heavy expression as he remembers his own life. Staring at a can of tuna on the shelf, he answers in a dry and very direct way. Not quite getting the metaphor, the boy repeats the word while the man explains he lived, just like that day after day. The young man changes the blade of his box cutter, while listening to the veteran vent about feeling trapped inside an old tin can. Taking advantage of the distraction, the opponent charges with everything, launching a fast attack at the boy's back. Thanks to impressive reflexes, Kang Min manages to dodge the strike at the very last second. The impact of the move hits the shelf, knocking several products onto the market floor. Keeping his cool, the boy praises the can metaphor, stating he really liked the comparison. Standing up and gripping his tool, the man listens to the young guy sarcastically ask if he was taking creative writing classes in the neighborhood. The veteran ignores the joke and declares that the guy also knows very well what he is talking about. The two begin an intense exchange of blows, sending sparks flying all over the store Azel. During the clash, the older man laments the awful life of being just a hunting dog that does nothing but follow orders. He pushes forward furiously, saying that this suffering only stops the moment life comes to an end. With a look full of determination, the man reveals his greatest wish of all. Landing a strike with all his might, the shopkeeper yells that the only thing he ever looked for was freedom. The boy quickly steps back to avoid taking the brutal attack head-on. But the veteran does not let up and keeps advancing with very precise movements. The constant clash between the blades creates a trail of destruction wherever they go. Defending against the charge, Kang Min comments that to get this so-called freedom, the man must have gained something else in return. The absurd force of the clash ends up breaking the merchandise around them, leaving a chaotic scene. Panting after the brawl, the veteran confirms he only got one single thing. With a steady gaze, he reveals that the grand prize for trying to leave that life was gaining a family. Kang Min notices a picture frame on the shelf as he hears that the organization eliminated all of them after finding out about his betrayal. The boy's look changes slightly, showing that the story finally caught his attention. The mercenary explains that the leaders dig up the identities of everyone's relatives and keep them under constant watch. Charging forward once more, he states that this is the method the bosses use to prevent any kind of mutiny. The young man steps back, dodging the charge, while the man adds that the family becomes hostages to the system. The two collide in the center of the little market, causing huge damage to the place's structure. A decorative apple near the family photo ends up being sliced in half just from the air pressure. The split fruit falls on the table as the veteran admits that regretting his choices won't change anything anymore. Delivering a powerful kick, the adversary throws the boy backward with extreme force. Kang Min stabilizes his stance and comments that it really is too late for any regrets now. The opponent adjusts his posture, showing the weight of all the losses he suffered along the way. The fallen family photo reflects the man's outburst about having paid far too high a price for his own freedom. However, the veteran taunts the guy, claiming that he actually got off pretty easy in this whole situation. Annoyed, Kang Min questions how the man had the nerve to go through with the escape, knowing the risk to his family. Sighing deeply, the young man confesses that listening to people with this kind of speech is extremely irritating. Trying to justify himself, the mercenary says he used to visit that place a lot and knew the real owner of the store. In his memory, the man mentions that on that specific day, the old merchant looked like he was going to pass out from exhaustion at any second. Worried about the situation, he recalls the conversation he had with the gentleman at the counter. On that occasion, the veteran suggested the owner close up early to get some rest. But the answer he got from that gentleman changed the course of the story. The kind merchant replied with a tired face that if he stopped working, he wouldn't be able to provide for his household. Returning to the present, the disguised shopkeeper sarcastically notes that the old guy seemed to be a very good man. A husband totally dedicated to taking care of his sick wife and innocent kids. Someone who dedicated his whole life to that small and humble commercial space. Kang Min listens to the whole story in complete silence in the middle of the wrecked store. At that moment, it is revealed that the mercenary took out the friendly owner, calling him an idiot, just to take his place. The young man lowers his head, feeling disgusted by the petty motive behind that cowardly act. With a dark look, he warns that this kind of attitude is what really makes him furious. The mercenary justifies himself, saying that talking about sacrificing for your family is not the same as being happy. Kang Min concludes that in the end, the old man also got his hands dirty just to protect his own. Taking a step forward, the boy gets ready to end the discussion once and for all. Walking toward his opponent, he points out that this is exactly why the man agreed to live like a servant for so long. With a fixed and threatening glare, the young man decides to give one final piece of advice as someone at the top of the organization. He states coldly that for people in their line of work, family is life itself. Taking his combat stance, the guy makes it clear that the conversation is over right there. In the blink of an eye, Kang Min dashes forward with absurd speed, charging at the enemy. Dodging counterattacks, the boy warns that living with a leash around your neck is a terrible fate. Slipping past the older man's defense, he prepares the decisive move of the battle. The two forces collide in an explosive impact, cutting through the store's air with sheer brutality. The veteran shows no concern, thinking he managed to get the upper hand in the direct clash. Prepping his next move, the man tries to mock the boy's tool. Keeping his arrogance, he asks ironically what anyone can even do with such a tiny blade. However, Kang Min ends the fight in a single, precise strike, proving that the small box cutter was more than enough to win. Completely in shock from the sudden turnaround, the veteran just stutters, trying to process what just happened. The small blade in the young man's hand was more than enough to cause a devastating impact and decide the fight. Holding the improvised tool, Kang Min hears his adversary struggle to ask how he managed to pull that off. Snapping off another piece of the tool super casually, the boy repeats the question in a mocking tone. With the piece in hand, he warns that the man should have paid closer attention to where the thrown knife ended up. Keeping his cool, the young man adds that the third rule of a clash is to never just throw your gear around carelessly. On the floor of the wrecked market, the equipment the veteran had tossed earlier rests, completely useless. Coughing and losing his strength, the shopkeeper falls to his knees, lamenting being taken down by a simple piece of metal. Defeated, the man asks if the guy was just playing with him from the start, but the boy denies it. Staring at the family photo tossed aside, Kang Min confesses he just wanted to understand if there was some hidden motive behind that betrayal. Right after, the MC makes it clear he has nothing personal against the fallen adversary. Even hurt, the veteran grumbles that the young man acted way too relaxed during the whole confrontation. With his head down, the man accepts his fate, believing the boy is just a mercenary sent by the organization to handle him. Running a hand through his hair without a care, Kang Min reveals he didn't return to Korea for that. Right near the scared opponent's face, the guy lets him know he got it all wrong, because he wasn't there for him. Completely confused, the older man hears that the young guy just stopped by because it was on the way. Looking at the fallen shopkeeper on the floor, the boy reveals that his main target is someone extremely special. Soon after, Kang Min states that the mission is so dangerous he is putting his own life on the line. Bringing up their earlier talk, the young man reminds him that the guy really wanted to win his freedom. The sharp blade tossed on the floor reflects the end of the line for the former member of that corporation. In the middle of the silent store, the boy declares that the veteran finally found his long-desired eternal peace. Hanging on the messy wall, the old clock marks the end of that tense clash. At that, the little wooden bird pops out, making its usual sound for the top of the hour. Calmly leaving the establishment, the young mercenary reports through the communicator that the minor job is done. Outside, he comments that it wasn't a bad warm, up for a side target while lighting a smoke. Looking up at the orange sky, the guy decides it is time to get on with his real path. Walking through the city streets, his thoughts are entirely focused on the main goal of his long trip. Standing at a high vantage point overlooking the metropolis, the young man plans to head straight to where his true mission lies. Shaking off his dirty shirt from the fight, Kang Min mutters that he won't have issues with the job, but he will need to get a new uniform. Afternoon scenery, he sighs, thinking about what tomorrow has in store. The next day, the scene shifts to a large high school where the start date for the main contract finally arrives. The facade of Annal High School shines under the morning sun, welcoming all enrolled students. Inside one of the classrooms, the students are already seated, waiting for regular classes to start. A girl watches someone walk in, while Kang Min's voiceover narrates that he will act in secret like he always does. Surprised by the unusual presence, the student hears the narration state that everything will be wrapped up very quickly. The teacher stops his explanation at the board when he notices the new student standing right at the classroom door. Standing in front of all his classmates, Kang Min casually announces that he hasn't received his student ID yet. With his uniform all messed up, he asks who has a smoke to lend, while mentally swearing he will take out the target soon. Going back 1 month in time, the story shows a massive, luxurious mansion in the dead of night. Dressed sharply and holding a piece, Kang Min comments that this situation is totally unexpected. Surrounded by several security guards in the backyard, the young man questions why a private home has so much protection. Keeping his cool in the face of danger, he suggests the homeowner just give up and accept his final fate. The mission target is revealed to be politician Manuel Santos, who glares at the intruder with a very heavy expression. Showing zero signs of fear, the man in the suit agrees with the young mercenary's words. However, the politician demands that before anything else, the guy needs to answer for dragging his family into this. His wife and daughter shake with terror, holding each other, while the target states they have nothing to do with his dirty business. Keeping a firm and protective gaze, the man tries to negotiate the safety of the two before any drastic measures are taken. Not caring much for the drama, Kang Min listens to the request to let the hostages go first. Giving the woman a gentle nudge, the boy releases the prisoners as naturally as can be. As the family runs behind the guards, the young man states he never hurts anyone besides his actual target. With a totally confident look, he makes a point of emphasizing that this is his one unbreakable rule. Relieved that his family is safe, the politician says it is really good to hear something like that from the enemy. Seizing the chance, the man immediately orders all the guards to ready their tools to attack the intruder. Kang Min rolls his eyes in disappointment, finding it pathetic that a professional has a worse mindset than a two-bit thug. The politician smiles arrogantly, commenting that he really believed the boy was someone important in the field. The scene cuts to the bright and luxurious facade of the famous Bethala Casino Hotel, lighting up the avenue at night. The inside is packed, with wealthy people betting big at the gaming tables scattered across the Golden Hall. In there, the scheme runs perfectly like a regular surface-level casino without raising any suspicion. However, in the back of the establishment, there is a very special table operated by a mysterious employee. A man sitting in the shadows comments that taking requests of that kind so openly requires a lot of confidence from the venue. The employee firmly replies that the casino's shady dealings are beyond the reach of even the government itself. Impressed by the setup, the client acknowledges that their reputation for being the best in the business wasn't just a rumor. Walking through the empty hall, the woman guarantees the success of the service, making the client confirm that's why he sought them out. Near the betting table, the dealer explains they only work with the most efficient agents available. Sliding her hands over the green felt, she begins to spread an entire deck of cards in a very professional manner. With the cards lined up perfectly, the blonde asks the mysterious man to pick one. The client states he already knows full well that the mercenary's danger level depends entirely on the card picked from the table. Carefully analyzing his options, the suit gets ready to make his big investment of the night. Decided, he pulls the exact ace of spades card and announces he will seal the deal with this option. The employee maintains her elegant posture, praising the choice, saying the suit picked an excellent card. Because of the agent's absurd skill level, she makes sure to warn him that the fee to activate this service is extremely high. Not caring about the cost, the client reveals a colossal stack of cash, claiming that it should be more than enough. Holding the black card, the dealer listens to the man demand the job be done ASAP and ask for the agent's whereabouts. A quick memory flashes a messy and dirty scene, while the boy's voice repeats that he never hurts anyone but the target. Lighting his lighter in the dark, Kang Min finishes his own sentence, warning that he only makes an exception if they attack him first. In the middle of that chaos, Kang Min casually lights his smoke and surprises one of the fallen guards. The politician's wife hugs her daughter in total despair after witnessing the ruin of her own home. With a cold attitude, the young man walks past the woman and apologizes for what he had to do to her husband. During his exit through the defeated hall, he confesses that one day he will pay for all the dark crimes he has committed. Back to the present, the sun shines bright, lighting up the large courtyard of the school where the boy just enrolled. In the classroom, the MC breaks the silence by asking his classmates if any of them have a smoke to lend. He keeps up his shameless act, justifying that he doesn't have a fake ID ready to buy his own pack yet. The teacher is shocked by the new student's sheer audacity, saying such nonsense right there in front of everyone. Completely offended by the lack of respect, the man demands to know who the boy thinks he is and tells him to introduce himself properly before getting out of his face. Not really caring about the embarrassing scolding, the young man just turns to the class and says it is a pleasure to meet everyone. Keeping his flawless disguise as a normal student, the elite mercenary finally reveals his name is Ryu Kang Min. To give more credibility to his made-up story, the covered agent claims to have recently moved from the countryside. Walking toward the desks, the guy knows perfectly well that he needed to get into a capital school to get close to his target. Since he works under the radar, the boy understands that in a country with such strict security, you cannot act carelessly. Therefore, pulling off a noisy job in the middle of the big city would be totally impossible and too risky for the mission. Lying straight to their faces, he tells the class his parents are super strict, and his only wish there is to enjoy his youth. One of the troublemaker students in the back of the room listens to the intro without showing an ounce of interest in the new kid. With an extremely friendly tone, Kang Min asks everyone to get along from now on, while thinking to himself that this farce will only last until he wraps up the job. In a quick flashback to the luxury casino, the mysterious negotiation over this same contract was still happening. The venue's employee calmly explained that the target was a native citizen who currently lived in that exact region. Sitting comfortably in the expensive armchair, the young man finds the coincidence interesting and comments on returning to the country. But the dealer interrupts him, warning that there is a very complicated detail to this specific mission, immediately catching the guy's attention. With a serious face, she reveals bluntly that he simply doesn't know who the person is that needs to be taken out. Baffled by the absurdity of the request, the boy cannot hide his surprise at that bizarre, nonsensical information. Holding the contract file, he complains indignantly that it makes zero sense and that the sheet only has one single name written on it. Trying to find a loophole, the mercenary presses the woman, wanting to know if there is any other personal clue left to help with the hunt. The employee immediately denies it, tapping the table, confirming the file is completely empty and they have nothing else besides that paper. Staring at the document in his hands, Kang Min tries to process the massive difficulty of tracking someone down basically from scratch. However, a sharp look appears on the boy's face, finding all this complication incredibly stimulating for his talents. The young man quickly takes a confident stance and lets her know he didn't waste time, having done his own preliminary digging before even setting foot in the school. Back in the classroom, the MC mentally notes that this place is the exact environment where the wanted guy should be. Standing in front of his new classmates, he sweeps the room with his eyes, looking for any useful detail for the mission. The only major flaw in this whole theory is that the mysterious student simply never shows up for class. Sighing in frustration, the boy realizes the initial plan won't work and he will need to improvise a new approach. Decided to push forward, he walks down the narrow aisle formed by the desks at the back of the class. His eyes quickly lock onto a specific desk that is completely empty and abandoned in the corner by the window. Trying to keep walking, the guy is intentionally blocked by a troublemaker classmate and asks with total irony why he is blocking the way. Furious at the new kid's nerve, the bully jumps up from his chair, grabbing the boy by his uniform collar, ready to start a brawl right then and there. Anticipating the fight, Kang Min lands a solid blow to the adversary's stomach, coldly warning that he needed space to pass. With the sheer violence of the sudden impact, the aggressor is thrown backward, knocking over several desks with a huge crash. Staring at the classmate groaning on the floor, the MC mocks the situation and asks if the door broke, while everyone around is in shock at the scene. The student in the middle row watches the commotion closely, showing clear interest in the newcomer's attitude. Sometime later in the empty school hallway, the mercenary remains leaning near the window, looking quite isolated. At that moment, the classmate who got beat up earlier approaches peacefully alongside the curious girl, asking why he is hanging out all alone. Keeping his friendly persona intact, the young man gives an awkward smile and confesses he hasn't had time to make any new friends yet. Away from the teacher's sights and rules, the disguised agent decides it is the perfect time to put his backup strategy into play. Enjoying his break, he takes a nice drag from his smoke, feeling momentary peace take over his thoughts. Crouching in a hidden corner near the trash can, the boy blows smoke into the air in a very relaxed, laid-back way. The two students join him in the circle, and the girl laughs, commenting that the new kid enjoys his habit like it is the greatest marvel in the world. Trying to steer the conversation deeper, the troublemaker student brings up the classroom intro and confirms if the guy really came from the countryside. Analyzing the newcomer's clothes and slouchy posture, the boy states he gives off the true vibe of someone who grew up out there. With his back to the duo, Kang Min smiles in relief, realizing this is the ideal opening to solidify his fake identity with the others. Aiming to create a school legend, he spins a lie on the spot, asking if they know a guy who always ends the night getting completely wasted. The female student bursts into loud laughter, remembering a guy who wrecked the karaoke machine, and excitedly concludes the new kid must have been the king of chaos in his old town. Using fake humility, the MC changes the subject, saying the guy was just an old buddy, but internally celebrates that his manipulation was an absolute success. Totally sold on the casual chat, the troublemaker classmate reaches out to seal a new, genuine alliance between them. Gladly accepting the handshake, Kang Min finds the situation pretty ironic, realizing his first partners in the country are exactly these shady characters. The orange sunset takes over the whole city as the crowd of students starts leaving the school gates toward freedom. Walking in a group down the busy street, the mercenary strolls calmly, accompanied by his newest local informants. During the long walk, his freshly won friend casually asks if he is heading straight to cram school, leaving the MC lost in the conversation. Faced with the everyday scene of students on the sidewalk, the young man uses laziness as an excuse, grumbling that he has zero desire to study late into the night. Right nearby, a younger kid is pushed into a school van, sadly complaining that it feels like being taken to a slaughterhouse against his will. Standing silently on the curb, the MC just watches the van disappear around the corner, taking away those kids' exhausting, normal routine. This brief glimpse of an ordinary, safe life ends up triggering a painful, dark memory in the mercenary's mind. Heavy memories from the past hit hard, showing the exact moment he found himself lost and abandoned in the world. In a dark, terrifying environment, a child version of him was crying, huddled up, hugging his knees, and feeling sheer terror of the unknown. Ruthless, aggressive men barked orders at the docks, demanding the little boy be tossed onto a suspicious ship as fast as possible. Alone and completely vulnerable, the boy awaited his end locked in a cold cell marked with white numbers glowing in the dark. Those cruel figures had decided right then and there that the innocent child would be shipped off into the organization's clutches, sealing his fate as a future living weapon. Snapping back to his current reality, Kang Min reflects that if it weren't for that string of miserable tragedies, his path would have been totally ordinary. Walking through the illuminated night in Seoul, he realizes this innocent student mask wouldn't have to be just a huge lie of fate. Fate had been kinder. Suddenly, the girl chatting away beside him loses her balance and takes a nasty trip on the sidewalk, letting out a surprised yelp. With instant reflexes, the guy catches his classmate by grabbing her backpack, while the girl sighs in relief for almost face planting on the ground. In that exact second, a friendly voice calls out from afar, shouting the names of the two students walking nearby. A very sharply dressed student joins the group and asks if they are already heading home, prompting Kang Min to exhaustedly confirm his first day of school drained all his energy. Arriving at a more private spot, the girl lets out an excited sigh while checking out the new kid. With a suggestive tone, she asks if the boy wants to just chill a bit after such a tiring day. Looking around the room, the disguised mercenary is impressed by how comfortable the place is, noting the lighting and temperature are perfect. As he sits down, he is startled by how soft the mattress is, while the student starts taking off her jacket right in front of him. In the middle of the red room, she agrees that the place is indeed very cozy. The young woman keeps listing the room's perks, pointing out he can watch TV and play video games all he wants. Showing a small counter full of options, she mentions there is also plenty of food available if he gets hungry. The vibe in the room starts getting a bit tenser and full of ulterior motives. Taking off another piece of clothing, the student teasingly says the guy could eat something really tasty right there. Her clothes drop to the floor near the MC's feet as she tells him to choose what he wants to do first. Leaning over the boy on the bed, the girl asks very directly where they should start. Not understanding the bizarre turn the situation just took, Kang Min stammers, trying to process what is about to happen. Suddenly, the sound of multiple camera shutters breaks the silence, revealing his two other classmates snapping photos of the scene. making the MC wonder if this is some kind of group intimidation. The two guys burst out laughing, totally mocking the terrified reaction the new kid just had. Looking at his phone screen, one of them mocks the boy's face in the video, laughing out loud, and saying he must be shaking in his boots. Dropping her seductive pose, the girl starts laughing non-stop and asks if her acting was convincing. Showing absolutely zero signs of panic, the MC simply throws the question back, wanting to know the reason for all this pathetic theatrics. The well-dressed student puts a hand on the new kid's shoulder, calling him by his name and mentioning the town he supposedly came from. Keeping up the mocking tone, the guy in the suit brings up the story told earlier about the supposed heavy drinker friend. He notes that as soon as he heard about the new kid transferring, that Buddy supposedly celebrated by getting smashed non-stop. The mood in the room instantly freezes when the group's ringleader decides to expose the truth behind the lie. Busting the myth, the guy warns that this so-called friend actually cannot handle his liquor at all, having had liver problems since he was a kid. Making things worse, he says he called the guy and found out he didn't even know the MC's name. Surrounding the new kid on the bed, the trio of bullies mocks his attempt at creating a fake rep just to fit in at his new school. Pretending to be cornered, Kang Min raises his hands while the suit points out that smoking in the middle of class was a rookie mistake if he wanted to look tough. Giving no time for an answer, the ringleader slaps the mercenary across the face with all his might, calling him an idiot. Taking the hit without fighting back, the boy listens quietly as they tell him from now on he will be the class's official punching bag during every break. Hyped up about their new victim, the bullies decide it is time to start the real humiliation session. The group leader grabs the MC's shirt brutally, ready to show who is boss around there. In an aggressive move, the student violently rips the new kid's clothes open, yelling to see just how tough he really is. The bully's superior attitude vanishes in an instant, replaced by a look of absolute shock. Stumbling backward, the guy is left completely speechless at what he just saw. The new kid's body reveals heavy marks that definitely do not belong to an ordinary student. The MC's mind drifts back to the luxury casino, remembering the moment he received that impossible single-name contract. That night, the employee slid the document across the table, waiting for the house's best agent to accept. However, Kang Min slid the paper back, rejecting the absurd job without a second thought. Asked why he turned it down, the young man argued there were thousands of people with that same name in the country, and he wasn't going to take them all out until he found the right one. Feeling the weight of the situation, the mercenary vented about the hassle of suddenly having to travel to his homeland. The standard agreement required him to return straight to the casino's clutches the second the job was done. But his biggest fear was stepping foot in Korea and ending up going soft due to memories of his family. He knew that if the desperation of seeing his relatives overpowered him, he would make an unforgivable mistake. As a consequence of that failure, the organization would undoubtedly hunt down and destroy all his loved ones. Cutting off the boy's worries, the dealer coldly assured him he didn't need to stress over that detail. She made it clear that this specific mission was completely different from anything he had ever done in his life. To convince the agent once and for all, the woman stated the casino was willing to offer a one-time, irrefutable payout. The promised reward for the job was nothing less than his long-awaited eternal freedom from the corporation's chains. The impact of that offer hit hard, sounding completely surreal to the young mercenary. Completely in disbelief, he repeated the word, trying to confirm if he had heard correctly. The employee guaranteed that after wrapping up the job, he would never have to step foot in that dark place again. Back in the motel room, the bully swallows hard, unable to process what is right in front of him. The other two sidekicks also freeze in terror as a tense atmosphere completely takes over the room. The new kid's torso is fully exposed, revealing insane muscle mass and countless scars from deadly battles. Realizing his cover is blown, Kang Min shows he no longer cares about being found out. He recalls his golden rule about never being hostile to anyone but the target unless the enemies strike first, validating his approach plan. Staring at the bullies shrinking on the floor, the boy loudly declares that this is his personal work policy. Given no chance to defend, the mercenary lands a brutal blow on the leader's face, crushing the guy's tough guy act in an instant. What follows is a completely one-sided clash, with the MC dishing out devastating attacks to put his prep phase into motion. The female student watches the scene paralyzed with fear, realizing their bait was actually a monster in disguise. The other lackey tries to fight back, but ends up taking a violent hit that makes him scream in pain across the room. Standing over the defeated bodies of the bullies, the young man cracks his neck and mutters that it is pretty hard to hold back his strength when idiots decide to attack first. With his face full of bruises and sweating cold, the group leader realizes he messed with the wrong guy. Rolling up his sleeves, The mercenary demands in a threatening tone that they try their little bullying session again. The scene cuts sharply to the past, showing a beautiful, deserted private tropical island operated by the casino 6 years ago. Loudspeakers scattered around announce the time of an inhuman training exercise, marking 7 minutes of pure ordeal. The countdown echoed across the isolated beach, warning that only 3 minutes were left before the cruel test ended. At the bottom of the dark sea, a voice mocked over the radio asking if the guinea pig was just going to float until he became shark food. A younger version of Kang, Min, was sinking into the ocean, chained down by heavy iron links to a massive metal grate. Desperately fighting for air, the boy tried to break free while being treated as nothing but a registration number within the training institute. The time pushed to 8 minutes, testing the absolute limits of the human body under the crushing weight of iron shackles. At the extreme edge of endurance, the lack of oxygen made the child panic underwater, nearly giving in to the insane pressure. In total contrast to the suffering in the depths, the ocean's surface sparkled calm and peaceful under the morning light. Suddenly, the sound of dragging chains breaks the calm of the waves crashing on the sandy beach. A small octopus crawls along the shore as the sound of heavy panting fills the surrounding air. Tossed on the sand and completely exhausted, the young apprentice jokes that he almost became a luxury feast for the local fish. Staring at the blue sky, barely able to move, he plays with his own luck, telling his late grandmother that it isn't time for her beloved grandson to join her in paradise just yet. Taking deep, difficult breaths, the boy tries to get his energy back while lying on the beach sand. But the moment of peace ends when the barrel of a piece is pressed against his head, warning him that time is up. Standing tall, the instructor aims the tool, stating the apprentice went over the test's time limit by a full minute. Frustrated by the situation, Kang Min grumbles, asking his grandma to at least let him choose how he is going to check out of this life. Just then, a loud shot rings through the air, scaring away the birds resting in the trees around the beach. The sound of the blast mixes with the strong wind blowing the corporation's dark flag in the middle of the island. Feeling the sudden impact, the tattooed man lets out a groan of pain, bringing his hand to his bruised face. Using the distraction, the young man used the flagpole to gain momentum and land a direct hit on the instructor's jaw. Rubbing the hit spot, the older man praises the move of using the environment to escape as the thought process of a true mercenary. Keeping up the irony, he asks if the kid isn't driven by money, and if that attack was just a final gasp before the end. Holding a small octopus in his hand, Kang Min shoots back offended, asking if the man thinks his brain is made of seawater. Explaining his basic logic, the apprentice reveals that the first round in the chamber is always a blank to prevent accidents. However, the instructor warns that from this moment on, the piece only carries real lethal ammo. Surprising the veteran, the boy is already holding his own piece, aiming right back, and checking if those rounds are actually real. Without hesitation, a new shot explodes in the island's sky, proving their training is something completely out of normal bounds. Back in the present, the neon sign on the street shows that life in the peaceful nation keeps rolling on normally outside. Inside the messy Karak room, the MC remains standing while the bullies are still sprawled on the floor, unresponsive. The tense vibe dominates the enclosed room, making it clear that this fun space has turned into a scene of total defeat. Rubbing his hands to dust them off, the disguised mercenary analyzes the results of his little warm-up. Sighing tiredly, he fixes his clothes and notices all the buttons on his school shirt ended up getting ripped off. One of the troublemakers swallows hard, watching the new kid's terrifyingly calm attitude. Looking at the pieces scattered on the floor, the injured guy wonders in confusion how the buttons ended up there. The truth is that ripping his own clothes is part of Phase 1 of his plan to build a self-defense alibi. Because of this, the situation will never look like an unprovoked attack, but rather a brawl where both sides decided to go all in. Faking annoyance, Kang Min complains he just bought the uniform recently while grabbing a heavy fire extinguisher. Seeing the improvised weapon, the group leader panics and screams, asking why the new kid is worrying about a simple outfit. In a fit of pure rage, the bully lunges first, launching a brutal strike and swearing to send the boy straight to the hospital. Taking the attack, the MC just comments that he has a good private health insurance plan to cover any accidents. Shock takes over the bully when he realizes his hit was blocked, making him yell out that he doesn't have any insurance at all. Completely terrified seeing the new kid stop the impact with just his bare hands, the student steps back, kicking off the second phase of the plan. Decided to solve it with brute force, the agent grabs the attacker's face to burn his terrifying presence into the guy's memory once and for all. Showing no mercy, he delivers a ruthless knee strike to the guy's face, making sure the insurance money will be put to good use. With a devastating move, the boy throws the bully straight into the ground, causing a massive crash in the room. Huddled in the corner, the other lackey and the girl shake in terror at that display of extreme violence. Totally knocked out with broken teeth, the group leader is left lying there as a warning of who Kang Min truly is. The student panics completely seeing her classmate's pathetic state, realizing the new kid is a monstrous threat. Keeping a cold face, the mercenary turns to the remaining lackey and announces he only has one single question to ask. Grabbed by the hair, the guy cries desperately, trying to make up an excuse that he was secretly on the girl's side all along so he wouldn't get beaten up. Ignoring the pathetic excuse, the MC asks about the third friend who usually hangs out with their crew at school. He is specifically referring to the held-back student from the other class who has an empty desk and never shows up. Stepping forward intimidatingly, the young man demands to know the exact location of the guy, while the bully asks why he cares. The agent's eyes grow even darker as he coldly shoots back, if it is against the law for him to want to know where the kid is. The pressure in the room makes the student break into a cold sweat, gulping hard in the face of the new kid's overwhelming presence. Unable to handle the terror, the bully turns around and runs away desperately toward the room's exit. Bursting through the door, he cries out that he'd get beaten up either way and that he is completely losing his mind from fear. The loud bang of the door slamming echoes heavily through the establishment's empty hallway. Right after, the same door slowly opens, letting out a long, uncomfortable creak from the wood. Calmly stepping out into the hallway, the agent promises in a dark tone that he won't hit him if he comes back inside. Running without looking back, the fleeing guy hears the voice and takes a quick peek to check the distance. However, focusing his eyes on the door, the student realizes in shock that the new kid simply vanished into thin air. Appearing in the blink of an eye, Kang Min wraps a microphone cord around the boy's neck, smiling to reveal that the escape was just an act. Revealing the ambush, the bully yells proudly that his big dream is winning Best Supporting Actor at a film festival. Suddenly, a hidden accomplice attacks from behind, violently smashing an object right over the MC's head. The actor-student keeps bragging about his theatrical skills, but soon realizes something went horribly wrong. Relentless, the mercenary reacts like in a real action movie and delivers a powerful kick to the arrogant kid. The insane force of the counterattack sends the enemies flying, wrecking part of the hallway's structure in a split second. The security system detects the damage and triggers the sprinklers, pouring water all over from the ceiling. Fallen under the artificial rain, the bully is defeated, starting the third phase, which involves planting absolute fear in the adversary. Watching the wreckage, the female student pulls her own hair and screams hysterically, being consumed by the purest terror. Totally paranoid, the girl suggests grabbing electric scooters, calculating the exact speed needed for an escape, while the sidekick thinks the idea is way over the top. Walking soaked down the hallway, the MC grumbles that this whole mess could have been avoided if they had just answered the question. Desperate seeing their chance slip away, the guy begs, rushing his classmate to run away from there as fast as they can. In that exact moment, a sturdy hand grips the doorknob of one of the rooms in the dark hallway tightly. Stepping out of the room, a large, tattooed young man starts boasting that he used to be the top prospect in youth wrestling tryouts. Looking at the defeated bullies on the floor, the big guy laments that he could have made a ton of money if he had stuck to sports. Squeezing the doorknob so hard the metal starts denting, he talks about the glory he let slip away. Throwing the busted piece on the floor, the wrestler claims he wanted to crush his opponent's skulls with those very same hands. Kang Min stares at the new challenger with a completely neutral expression, showing zero interest in the dramatic backstory. Cited by the new kid's presence, the big guy charges forward heavily, stating it has been a long time since his last real fight. Maintaining absolute calm, the mercenary listens to his fake name being shouted by the opponent, thirsty for a good brawl. Furious and hyped, the veteran challenges the MC to a brutal clash until one of them is completely wrecked. Suddenly, the scene cuts to the room next door where the sound of violent thuds makes the entire wall shake non-stop. Sitting on the couch, an embarrassed student comments that the loud noises coming from the next room are crossing the line. Trying to hide his nerves about the suggestive situation, the boy stutters, explaining he was just talking about the noisy neighbors. Annoyed by her partner's slowness, his girlfriend crosses her arms and asks if he is just going to sit there listening to other people's noise. Irritated by the situation, the neighbor student decides the best way to deal with the annoyance is giving them a taste of their own medicine. Jumping on the bed with full force, he tells his girlfriend that from now on they are going to make the exact same amount of noise. But the intense sound is actually coming from Kang Min, who is smashing the big guy against the motel room wall with absurd strength. Watching the destruction, the actor-student is paralyzed with fear while the new kid announces that Phase 4 of his plan has begun. The mercenary finishes the veteran with a devastating strike, leaving his adversary completely knocked out on the floor. With a ripped shirt in the middle of the dust, the MC mocks the poor build quality of the place and concludes that taking down the boss destabilizes the rest. Glaring at the bullies huddled in the corner, he explains there is a very clear reason for going through all this exhausting process. Desperate to escape, the girl tries to force her way out, shaking the broken doorknob while crying, not knowing what to do. At that, the boy's terrifying presence looms right behind her, asking what she is trying to do, marking the start of the final phase. Supernaturally, Kang Min opens the door by pulling it the right way and comments that you have to show a little mercy in the end. The student drops to her knees begging for mercy, swearing to do whatever he says so she doesn't get hurt. Seizing her peak moment of terror, the agent offers a fake lifeline, telling her he never intended to hurt her. Crouching near the terrified classmate, he confesses he just needs a tiny favor and mentally explains this is the perfect tactic to dominate someone. Holding the girl's face intimidatingly, the young man states that only she can pull off this task, turning the victim into a loyal servant. Under the mercenary's dark gaze, the student stutters her acceptance, guaranteeing total obedience to her new master. Satisfied with her quick submission, the disguised agent decides to take the first step of his true mission. Keeping his voice calm, he questions the girl about the held-back student she mentioned earlier at school. The focus shifts to a dark, run-down building in the city as the MC asks what kind of person this guy really is. The inside of the place reveals a dark, silent staircase, creating a heavy atmosphere of hidden danger. At the end of the hall, rows of old lockers hold the dark secrets of whoever operates in that hidden space. A phone screen displays an absurd profit in cryptocoins, and someone celebrates that people always open their wallets for this type of content. Picking up a piece of raw fish with chopsticks, a man cheers that just one video has already beaten all of last year's revenue. The leader of the scheme relaxes in an armchair in the basement, commenting that for both fish and people, freshness is what matters most. Agreeing with the boss without hesitation, one of the henchmen praises the product's shine while enjoying the huge feast. The whole room is filled with criminals eating sushi and celebrating the absolute success of their illegal business. Hyped by the numbers on screen, the guy in the suit reports the downloads are so high the site can barely handle the massive traffic. All this is thanks to a secret internet address the group runs in the shadows of the law. Watching the shady recording playing on the screen, one of them concludes the world really is completely doomed. Licking his lips, the boss finds it hilarious that people pay top dollar to watch a guy freak out alone on camera. Staring at the fish head served on the table, he is thankful for the luck and wealth that bizarre content brought to the crew. Lounging in his leather chair, the leader brags about getting rich in that filthy basement and calls the whole situation a true work of art. Worried about exposure, a henchman suggests maybe it is time to switch headouts before the cops track their success. Without losing his cool for a second, the boss guarantees there is absolutely no reason for his employees to panic. He explains the footage was received through a fully encrypted app and all the servers are heavily guarded. Grabbing another slice from the Japanese feast, the suit points out that the entire network is routed overseas, making local tracking impossible. Suddenly, loud banging on the door interrupts the celebration right as the leader was saying not even the biggest intel agency could find them. The heavy, rusted metal door stays locked, guarding the only entrance to the underground hideout. The henchmen step up confused, checking the people to see who could have found such a secret spot. A tense vibe takes over the dark hallway as the armored door waits from the outside. Ignoring the danger signs, the leader keeps eating calmly and orders his subordinates to test whoever is trying to break in. The door slowly opens with a creak and one of the thugs asks in a very aggressive way who the intruder is. The visitor wears a black jacket with an armed rabbit logo on the back and wants to confirm if this is the distribution hub. Walking with firm, silent steps, the mysterious young man walks into the criminal's den without showing a hint of worry. Glaring at the scary thugs around him, the blonde guy bluntly asks if he finally found the right place. Noticing the invading kid's light hair, the boss mocks his looks and concludes with relief that the guy isn't a cop. Surrounded by several tattooed bruisers, the invading youth listens as the criminals ask which rival gang he belongs to. They try to guess in confusion if the kid was sent by one of the old, well-known gangs in that area. Inside his dark jacket, the blonde simply demands in a cold tone that they delete the video immediately. Finding his audacity hilarious, one of the huge henchmen taunts the intruder, telling him to get ready to suffer. The thug lunges with outstretched hands, swearing he will have the kid crying in terror in just a few seconds. The other lackeys laugh at the cowardly situation, joking that the place will reek of fear and will need to be well ventilated after. In the blink of an eye, a deafening blast cuts the air and strikes the side of the attacker's head with a brutal impact. Completely shocked by the sudden pain, The criminal raises a shaking hand to his injury, unable to process what just hit him. The bruiser drops to his knees on the cold floor, screaming in despair from the partial hearing loss and the damage taken. The extreme noise of the shot leaves another thug dizzy, complaining desperately that he completely lost the ability to hear his buddies swearing. Panic starts to show on one of the henchmen's faces as he realizes the absurd severity of the situation right in front of him. Without skipping a beat, the blonde kid delivers a ruthless kick to the injured opponent to get him out of his way. The criminal's heavy body crashes down defeated in the middle of the circle, spreading terrifying tension throughout the hedyot. The scary scene unfolds. One of the lackeys finally puts the pieces together and figures out what caused all that noise. With his firearm pointed steadily, the intruder makes the thugs scream in total panic as they confirm the lethal threat. With an empty, ruthless glare at the group, the armed boy repeats his single demand for them to delete the recording from the site. Sweating cold in his chair, the leader tries to deny reality, frantically claiming that couldn't possibly be a real piece. Taking advantage of the distraction, a henchman tries to ambush from behind, swinging an iron pipe and demanding the boy hand over his gear. Absurd reflexes, the blonde blocks the strike and slams the butt of his weapon straight into the attacker's face with intense violence. Dusty after the quick clash, the intruder doesn't change his tone and insists once more on the immediate removal of the content. Blinded by the boss's denial, another thug charges in, yelling that it must just be a slightly stronger pellet gun. Encouraging his allies around him, he claims nobody there has any real reason to fear a simple modified toy. The whole gang decides to rush the intruder all at once in a totally coordinated, desperate attack to save themselves. The jacket with the dark rabbit becomes the final major warning before true chaos takes over the basement for good. Soon, a ruthless string of shots echoes through the room, hitting the adversaries in an extremely precise and decisive way. Empty shells hit the floor, marking the messy end of the one-sided clash inside that criminal hedyot. The blonde boy stands untouched in the center of the room, surrounded by the defeated bodies of all the gang members. After taking care of the aggressive henchman, he calmly turns his body to look for the leader of that dirty operation. Hiding like a coward near the safe, the suit mutters in disbelief at the total wreckage he just witnessed. Next to a bag full of cash, the boss cries in terror, trying to understand how a simple toy caused such definitive damage to his men. Desperate, the boss points his piece, shaking with fear, and considers if he should call the cops, just to escape alive. Completely ignoring the criminal's threat, the blonde intruder coldly fires back, demanding the immediate deletion of the video. To make the warning crystal clear, the boy states that disobedience will cost him the exact same sad fate as his fallen buddies on the floor. Sweating cold in terror, the scheme leader tries to confirm if his only demand is really just deleting the file from the system. The young man confirms the order, instructing the guy to destroy the hard drive or burn the equipment, as long as it fixes the problem. Not understanding the reason for so much violence, the boss questions why he broke in, suspecting the victim paid for the hit. At that, the mercenary is totally thrown off by the guess and slightly lowers his guard, wanting to understand the guy's logic. The criminal tries to explain himself, revealing that the person in the video isn't who the intruder thinks it is. Checking the screen, the blonde gets a shock, realizing the bizarre title of the video was actually referring to him. Noticing the sudden confusion, the boss looks like a deer in headlights, trying to process the meaning behind that reaction. Consumed by rage over the humiliating title, the boy raises his weapon again, cursing the thug out with all his fury. A massive blast echoes through the hideout, marking the end of the criminal operation and wrecking the huge feast on the table. The mess in the basement contrasts perfectly with the aerial view of Seoul, where the early morning hours remain peaceful on the empty streets. The silence of the night takes over a quiet residential neighborhood, focusing on a large, traditional two-story house. Inside one of the completely dark rooms, only the faint light from the computer monitor illuminates the room's calm vibe. A clean, well-ironed school uniform waits silently, hanging on a hanger inside the dark closet. The embroidered insignia on the fabric confirms the outfit belongs to a student enrolled at the famous Enrolls High School. Far away, a dark, silent concrete staircase leads straight into the depths of a secret hedyot. On the work desk, the file holding the main target's data rests, illuminated by a dim lamp. While assembling a sniper rifle with extreme mastery, Kang Min reflects on the absurd strictness of the country's laws. Attaching the long barrel of the weapon, the agent understands perfectly well that using real gear draws a lot of unwanted attention. Adjusting the telescopic sight, he calculates that getting caught would only leave him with the excuse of it being a modified toy. Sitting alone in his underground armory, the young man tests the weight of the equipment, reflecting on his own life of appearances. With a decisive metallic click, the guy locks the ammo clip in, guaranteeing the perfect function of his tool. Looking through the professional lens, the MC determines that the danger in his hands is the only thing that is absolutely real. Fast forward to the next morning. The boy crouching in a sunny park breaks the silence, casually demanding a smoke. Totally tamed after his beating, the bully leader rushes over all bruised up to please his new master with the pack. Kang Min lights his smoke with a bored expression, accepting the quick submission of the school's lackeys. The huge tattooed guy also tries to make himself useful, holding a lighter with both hands like it is some grand treasure. When he asks for an ashtray, the bullies throw themselves on the ground to catch the ash, making the agent mourn the end of his innocent childhood. Noticing the unexpected gathering in the courtyard, the seductive student approaches suspiciously, looking for the reason behind the meeting. Blowing smoke through his nose, the mercenary very calmly explains the need to finish their conversation from yesterday. Without beating around the bush, he demands details about that held-back kid from the next class who simply never shows up. Right then, the MC notices the bullies breaking a cold sweat and asks the reason for their sudden distress. Staring at the visibly nervous trio, the new kid tries to figure out why the mood got so heavy out of nowhere. The girl quickly looks away and swallows hard, showing a deep fear of touching on that thorny subject. Losing his patience with their cowardly silence, Kang Min presses them to find out if some tragedy happened to their missing buddy. The untold truth reveals the mysterious student at the center of a completely wiped-out criminal hideout. Dirty after the tense clash in the basement, the blonde youth held his weapon, proving to be a lethal threat in the city's underworld. Cutting to a busy arcade, the target shooting machine electronically announces the end of yet another round. Leaning over the attractions counter, the student checks the toy blaster, testing the mechanics with a lot of frustration. Sighing exhaustedly, the girl drops the gear, feeling like the system on that toy is totally useless. Sitting on the bench, the girl complains angrily about the busted aim, feeling a strong urge to throw the junk in the trash. Turning to the guys watching, she nervously demands some military expertise from them to fix the broken machine. Looking at the prize shelf, the young woman mourns her crushed dream of winning the muscular plush toy. Suddenly, someone pulls back the bolt on the plastic piece, pointing confidently at the prize she wanted so badly. The mysterious student named Jang Hyan Su steps up to handle the situation, asking the girl to wait just a little bit. Watching the guy's solid stance, the young woman praises his style, but he laughs, confessing it is his first time playing that game. Wasting no time, the blonde fires at the plastic targets, guaranteeing hits with accuracy that is simply terrifying. Hyped by the unexpected skill, the girl excitedly asks if the win and the plushie are really guaranteed. The machine registers a perfect streak of fast hits, proving the rookie shooter's absurdly sharp reflexes. The bullies in the group watch, jaws dropped, commenting on his grand talent, worthy of admiration from the armed forces. After effortlessly hitting the max score, the blonde grabs the bizarre plush toy and tosses it toward his classmate. The student hugs the giant prize with a huge smile on her face, thanking her friend very affectionately. Throwing a shameless flirt, she touches the guy's arm and swears to repay this huge favor as soon as possible. The held-back student stays quiet, watching the girl, seeming to completely ignore the flirt thrown right in his face. To break the ice, the bullies start messing around with the arcade games, spinning around like hyper kids. Staring at the toy weapon in his hands, Hyan Su mutters in confusion, trying to decipher the true meaning of a reward. Sliding his finger over the plastic trigger, the blonde analyzes the gear, feeling the dark familiarity of its shape. With a dangerous, deceitful smile, the boy concludes with no mystery that his aim is just exceptionally good. Back on the busy sidewalk in downtown Seoul, the afternoon sun lights up the big subway station sign. Walking frustrated down the streets, the girl grumbles to herself, thinking it is a huge pain having to deal with this whole situation. In the back of her mind, she doesn't get the interest in Hyan Su, wishing she could forget that guy existed forever. Listening to the annoyed muttering, the MC matches her pace, wanting to understand the solitary rant. Wearing very stylish casual clothes, the agent mocks his classmate, asking the reason for the freakout in the middle of the street. Noticing their matching leather jackets, the young woman ironically points out the huge coincidence of them wearing a matching look. Clicking her tongue in a bad mood, the student complains about the absurd annoyance of losing her weekend off. Kang Min keeps his indifferent posture, totally ignoring the dramatic complaints of his reluctant servant beside him. To cut the drama, he reminds the girl about the irrefutable deal they made right after the mess in the motel room. The agent's cold stare returns to her memory, highlighting the exact moment she swore total obedience in exchange for safety. Checking the map on his phone with a friendly smile, the fake country boy tries to confirm if this is the best neighborhood in town. Without revealing his true motives, he demands she play tour guide so he can get to know the capital like a normal person. Relief takes over the student's face, and she almost bursts out laughing, thinking all that tension was just a bad joke. Walking more calmly, she mentally confesses her terror of imagining an extremely dangerous or criminal mission. Looking at the boy admiring the city, the young woman mistakenly concludes that his monstrous strength hides just an ordinary guy. During the chill walk down the street, Kang Min asks if the girl wants to grab a bite first, leading her to conclude the new kid is totally falling for her. The agent keeps up the ordinary guy act and asks if she is craving anything specific. The student excitedly pulls out her phone and tells him she just saw an amazing place on her news feed. Taking advantage of the distraction, the guy pulls his classmate close and snaps a picture of them together. However, a bit further away, a mysterious figure hides their face while taking pictures of the duo from a distance. Once inside a very traditional restaurant, the young woman comments that she understands the establishment's fame. But outrage hits hard when she sees a colossal table served with 80 different dishes, asking if they are pretending to be royalty. Bored with the situation, she declares his taste in dates is garbage and asks if the boy has ever gone out with a woman before. The mercenary just lowers his head slightly and apologizes for the awkwardness. With an almost melancholy tone, the MC confesses that he actually never had real friends throughout his life. Because of this lack of experience, he admits he genuinely doesn't know what normal people usually eat at times like this. The sudden vulnerable attitude ends up catching the student totally off guard, leaving her in silence. At that, Kang Min places a piece of meat in his classmate's bowl and says that on days like this, it is better not to think too much. The girl grumbles, annoyed as she remembers she is on a diet, asking what she is supposed to do in a place full of temptations. However, at the very first bite, she surrenders to the flavor and praises the food, making the young man agree excitedly. The guy keeps recording everything on his phone and asks about the dish, surprisingly finding out it was iguana tempura. Not missing a beat, he takes another selfie right at the exact moment he wipes the corner of his companion's mouth. The outing continues to an open area that works like a small petting zoo right in the middle of the city. Suddenly, an alpaca approaches the couple, letting out a very weird and attention-grabbing noise. The girl praises how sweet the animals are while feeding them, but Kang Min quickly criticizes the bizarre scream she let out when she almost got spit on. Finding the situation hilarious, the agent pulls out his phone to record his classmate's panicked reaction with the animals. He cannot stop laughing while taking pictures of the chaos, commenting that the animal's personality is simply insane. The two arrive at a modern building that houses a famous art gallery. Standing in front of the exhibited artworks, the MC tries to look cultured, claiming that modern art is indeed very deep. However, his words fail when he comes across a regular urinal placed in the middle of the room as the main attraction. Next, a toilet on display catches his eye, and the young man sarcastically asks if she felt the flush of emotions from that masterpiece. Using the sign of the bathroom products event as a backdrop, the guy takes yet another photo of the two of them together. Night has already taken over the city as the couple walks down a street lined with bright, luxurious stores. The mercenary takes advantage of the night scenery and keeps taking pictures of the student walking ahead of him. Tired of all the acting, the girl asks how long he will keep recording, hearing that it will be until the boy feels satisfied. Putting the device back in his pocket, Kang Min calmly lets her know his phone's storage got completely full. The young woman is baffled, remembering the phone has a massive amount of space, and asks just how much he recorded to fill all that up. The night stroll continues under the starry sky, lighting up the empty streets of that residential neighborhood. Once at the park, the girl thanks him for the great tour of the capital, leaving the guy quite satisfied with how the date turned out. Suddenly, the agent stops walking and comments that it would be a huge waste to end the night like this. Pointing to a brightly lit carnival shooting booth, he suggests they play one last round before heading home. The student eyes the carnival game with a lot of curiosity and suspicion. The wooden target waits untouched at the back of the booth, challenging the few customers walking by. The sight of the stand brings back a quick, dark memory of the heavy military training the mercenary faced in his youth. Now standing in front of the prize counter, the two get ready to test their luck on the simple children's game. The booth owner encourages the couple, saying they just need to land a single shot out of 10 tries to win a plush toy. Friendly, the man guarantees it is the perfect gift for the girlfriend, but warns right away that the challenge is much harder than it looks. Holding the cork rifle, Kang Min instantly notices the sights on that toy are intentionally completely misaligned. The MC mentally concludes that not even an elite sniper could hit the target using busted gear like that. Passing the weapon into the girl's hands, he bets in a mocking tone that she won't be able to hit absolutely anything. Overflowing with confidence, the young woman shoots back that if she lands every shot, she will take the best prize on the shelf home. Adjusting her shooting stance, she demands the guy grant her one more favor if she walks out of there victorious. The booth owner lets out a mocking laugh, muttering that the attempt will be totally useless and a waste of time. But soon, a flawless sequence of hits knocks down every single target in the blink of an eye, crushing the old man's confidence. Completely in disbelief at what he just witnessed, the vendor stutters, trying to process that customer's absurd precision. Spooked by the loss, the man asks desperately if she really managed to knock down absolutely every single piece. Defeated while handing over the prize, the old man listens to the girl tease Kang Min to try it too, but he changes the subject, saying it is his first time. Ignoring the joke, the agent uses his phone to photograph the girl's stance while she holds the toy weapon. Showing the image on the screen, the mercenary analyzes the pose and confirms he finally figured out how to approach his real target. The silence of the early morning hours has already taken over the residential neighborhood as the duo ends their long, exhausting outing. Swinging the plastic bag, the MC grumbles that the one plush toy is way too ugly to be a prize. The student agrees, doubting the toy's quality, but quickly admits that squeezing the thing is weirdly satisfying. The walk continues in a much quieter vibe, with the girl deep in a sea of confusing thoughts. Stopping suddenly, she calls his name and questions the real reason the boy made such a specific, unusual request earlier. The phone screen reveals that the mercenary's big demand was just for her to post the pictures of them together on her social media. Letting out a restrained giggle, the young woman seems to have unraveled the disguised agent's entire hidden strategy. The elevator panel shows it going up, while she accuses the guy of using the city tour as an excuse to pull out his cheap dating tricks. Recalling his actions, she mentions the bizarre moment he made a point of wiping her mouth so carefully. Her social media profile shows the multiple photos together, and she concludes that his good boy smile was just a cheap tactic. Hiding her face behind the plush toy, the student takes a deep breath, trying to control her own emotional reaction in that moment. Totally embarrassed by her conclusion, the girl mumbles awkwardly and confesses the new kid is an unbearable person. In another dark place, a finger swipes across a phone screen, closely following the young woman's recent profile posts. The photos from the art gallery outing scroll across the screen, being analyzed meticulously and silently. Every new post confirms the dangerous closeness the mercenary managed to build with the student in such a few hours. Suddenly, the elevator chime announces the arrival on the 5th floor, making the person stop scrolling right away. The metal doors open slowly, revealing the young woman standing inside holding her carnival prize. The girl is caught completely off guard, feeling an instant shock when she recognizes who is waiting for her outside. Standing in the building's hallway, the blonde boy with a face full of scars also freezes in amazement when he sees her. The quiet, dimly lit space turns into the scene of an extremely tense and dangerous encounter. Consumed by dread and the tension of the moment, the student lets the weird plushie slip from her hands and drop heavily onto the floor. Near the apartment door, the blonde guy touches the girl's lips, warning her it is too dangerous to be out walking the streets this late. With his hand touching her neck, he hears the totally tense student ask what he is doing in that place. Looking inside the house, the boy comments nostalgically that this environment brings back a lot of memories. Squeezing the young woman's neck slightly, he reveals this is the first time he has been back there since that fateful night. A memory surfaces showing a group of students drinking and celebrating wildly inside that exact same room. The mess is in full swing with everyone raising their glasses and making endless toasts scattered around the living room. One of the troublemakers complains the drink is too weak, like sugar water, and jokes about mixing it with food. Sitting on the floor, the host tells the group to take it easy and warns she will wreck them if anyone gets sick in there. The crew keeps egging on the drinking while the blonde tries to calm the girl down, promising he will look after everyone. Already feeling the buzz, the young woman confesses to the guy that he gives off a very trustworthy vibe because he is a bit older. Keeping up his good guy act, he tells her to just trust his intentions. Time passes, and the apartment floor ends up completely littered with empty soju bottles. The whole group of guys ends up passing out from drinking so much and is left snoring on the floor. The student cannot handle the pressure either and ends up falling into a deep sleep sprawled out on the bed. In the darkness of the silent room, the blonde classmate approaches the sleeping girl with ulterior motives. The guy gets right next to the young woman's ear and whispers her name, taking advantage of the quiet night. Sitting next to the bed, he bluntly tries to confirm if his classmate is really knocked out. The student stays lying down and still, not realizing the huge danger right beside her. With a dark, heavy look, the boy leans over her, confirming the coast is clear to make his move. A desperate scream echoes down the street, completely shattering the calm of that disturbing night. Back in the present, the blonde coughs in the dark hallway and grumbles that his life was ruined just because the girl reported him. He bitterly laments getting kicked out of school and being abandoned by his own family after the scandal from that night. Cuffing a bit more, the guy blames the student for everything, but she coldly fires back, demanding to know where his share of the blame is. Glaring at her former classmate in pure disgust, the young woman states he is nothing but a disgusting creep. The boy repeats the word in a totally cynical way, leaving the student spooked by his lack of remorse. Totally outraged, he raises his voice, accusing the girl of hitting on him first during the party. The guy tries to justify his actions, saying she kept touching him on purpose and throwing charm around the whole time. He then lists off how the young woman loved to call him affectionate names and praise how much of a reliable guy he was. Shoving his phone in her face, the blonde insults his ex-classmate, claiming she acted in a calculated way just to get attention. The student doesn't understand where this talk is going as she hears him say today's situation is exactly the same. The device's screen shows the recent photo of the girl with the disguised agent on their city date. Smiling in a bizarre way, the criminal deduces she only posted the picture to make him jealous. The young woman's eyes widen in shock at his level of delusion, while the guy keeps making up excuses for his own madness. He shows the picture of the shooting booth and asks if that is why she decided to play the exact same shooting game they used to play. Grabbing the student's wrist with extreme force, the attacker forces her to listen to his absurd theories up close. Unable to take the pressure, the girl delivers a heavy slap to the blonde's face, calling him a lunatic. While the guy cools his stinging cheek, she tells him to go find his mother and check himself into a psychiatric ward. Taking advantage of the opening from her hit, the young woman tries to run, stepping right over her own plushie she had dropped on the floor. With a totally threatening look, the blonde reveals that ever since that incident, he started recording his daily routine. Pointing a firearm toward the girl's back, he warns her he trained relentlessly waiting for this reunion. The metallic click of the tool being cocked makes the student freeze in terror mid-escape. Shaking with excitement, the attacker confesses he is super nervous to finally show the results of his training. The guy charges brutally at his former classmate, completely ignoring her desperate screams. Pulling the girl close, he covers her mouth, muffling any attempt to call for help. Suddenly, a voice comes out of nowhere, sarcastically commenting that he didn't expect to find the target so fast. Stepping out of the shadows, Kang Min smiles with satisfaction, noting that hiring a private paparazzi was totally worth it. A quick flashback shows a dark alley, hidden from public view in the middle of the city. A group of masked boys checks their phones, analyzing suspicious photos. They debate about the images taken from afar and posted on the student's social media. The mysterious informant grumbles in frustration about the mercenary turning him into a mere errand boy. The spy was actually just the bully leader, annoyed he had to follow the couple around all day. In the past, the lackey photographed the duo at the art gallery, praying that a perfect job would save him from another beating. Staring at his phone screen, the bully confesses he doesn't get the point of all this, since the new kid doesn't even seem to actually like the girl. The plan was to leave a trail, and the trap worked perfectly to draw in unwanted attention. Returning to the present, Kang Min appears holding his weapon and confesses he was having a really hard time finding the target's location. Walking imposingly, the MC passes by the fallen student, amazed that such a childish trick actually worked. With a sharp, teasing look, he asks if the criminal was really that desperate to bite on such a silly bait. The mood in the hallway hits absolute peak tension as the two sides finally lock eyes. The target asks if the newcomer is the girl's boyfriend, but Kang Min shoots back mockingly, asking if he looks like a girlfriend. The mercenary cocks his own weapon without a hint of hesitation, making the creep realize the gravity of the situation. The blonde flashes a confident look, saying he already fully understands the situation here. Without any warning, he pulls the trigger, firing a sudden shot in the mercenary's direction. Dodging the projectile with ease, Kang Min mocks the target's move of attacking straight away without even giving a formal threat. Maintaining his aggressive stance, the criminal claims that with the new kid out of the picture, the student will be his again. The attacker's gear remains firmly gripped, aimed right at his rival. The MC steps forward quickly, demanding to know if the opponent really wants to protect the girl that much. The scene flashes briefly, showing the silent interior of an empty, luxurious apartment. Keeping his arrogant pose, the blonde proposes a shooting challenge, suggesting the winner gets to keep the young woman as the grand prize. To make the terms perfectly clear, he warns that the tool in his hand is no ordinary toy. With his own tool cocked, Kang Min listens to his adversary brag that his weapon settles everything in a single shot. A sudden memory shows the annoyed target staring at his phone screen after seeing his own leaked video. He indignantly asks who spread the footage on the internet, but quickly gets distracted praising his own camera angle. Stepping out of the shower in a robe, the guy deduces the main culprit for the leak was the cheap phone repair tech. Furious at the damage, he promises to put a round in the responsible party and tells an unexpected visitor that he must be out of the loop. Sitting imposingly in the bedroom, an armed man in a suit ironically states the boy's video has already become a massive hit. Returning to the sudden memory, the suit calmly comments in the bedroom that the guy's footage is a huge smash on the forums. Hein. Sue demands to know who this intruder is and what he wants. The scene focuses on the filming gear, revealing the target usually corrects his own moves alone, practicing tactics to seduce other people. All of this happens while the criminal films his own terrible acts in a dark room. Hein, Sue gets a massive shock realizing the level of privacy invasion. Holding the device, the mysterious man confesses that evaluating yourself in your own bed is a bizarre and extremely creepy behavior. Analyzing the firearm in his hand, the visitor notes the boy also keeps very dangerous gear at home. With that, he points the tool at the target and praises his perfect talent for causing huge problems on the internet. Keeping up the intimidating pose over his glasses, the man calls the guy's attention in a dry tone. Consumed by irritation, Hein, Sue asks if the intruder is going to answer his questions or not, demanding to know where he came from. The lone camera stays pointed at the messy bed in the middle of the silent room. At that moment, the focus shifts to a small pin with a peculiar symbol attached to the suit's lapel. The man reveals he is part of a massive organization called the Network, entirely focused on making cash in the underworld. Pulling the bolt on his gear, the veteran claims to be the one responsible for recruiting problematic talents, just like him. Hein, Sue is surprised to hear the recruiter watched with great interest all of his actions that were capable of causing public scandals. The suit lowers his weapon and makes a direct offer, suggesting the young man start working with them from now on. To close the deal, the recruiter hits the boy's weak spot, asking if he really wants the student that badly. Back to the clash in the hallway, Hein, Sue smiles confidently and proposes a shooting match, betting the girl as the grand prize for the winner. Keeping his tool aimed, the adversary decides to leave a crystal, clear warning about his equipment's power. The target claims with pure arrogance that his weapon can finish the mercenary with one single, precise shot. Silence takes over the room for a brief moment of pure tension between the two rivals. Min flashes a completely unbothered look and throws the threat back, asking if that is actually true. Caught off guard by the lack of fear, the criminal hears the agent tell him to just shoot already. Sue's finger shakes on the trigger while Min mocks him, asking if he got scared right when it was time to handle things. Without waiting for his opponent's reaction, the MC takes the lead and fires a fast, direct shot at the target. The sudden impact hits Hein, Sue's forehead, throwing the guy onto the hallway floor as he lets out a high-pitched scream of despair. Fallen and in intense pain, the criminal holds his head waiting for his own ruin, but quickly realizes there is something very weird about the situation. Staring at the ammo he just took, Min gets totally outraged, demanding to know why there are rubber bullets inside that tool. Still holding his bruised forehead, the target frustratedly concludes that the online sellers lied and don't actually deliver real lethal ammo by mail. Sighing from pure exhaustion, the agent lowers his gear, grumbling he already suspected the enemy's weapon wasn't real. Pulling the bolt on his own tool, the mercenary laments wasting time dealing with such a pathetic guy. Kneeling on the floor in unbearable pain, the opponent mutters through gritted teeth that this whole thing is an absolute embarrassment. Seizing the opening, the mercenary fires a warning shot that grazes the enemy's ear, demanding he freeze. Prepping the next projectile, Min notes that the opponent's stupidity has become way too obvious to ignore. With a quick move, the MC shoots at a nearby object just to demonstrate the lethal firepower in his hands. Staring coldly at Hein, he sarcastically asks if the kid's weapon was just a simple plastic toy. The shot blows the head clean off a dummy, proving reckless kids shouldn't play with dangerous tools. Facing the target huddled in fear, the agent states anyone can tell that modified weapon is professional work and wasn't built by the kid himself. Pressuring the criminal with more shots into the floor, Min praises the gear's perfect accuracy, telling the enemy to shut up and accept his fate. Trying to hold his ground, Hein, stands up pointing his fake toy, while the mercenary mutters his amazement at the crimes that tool has already caused. Even with a dirty track record, the agent notices the boy has incredibly never spent a single day behind bars. Flashing a sharp smile, the MC demands the adversary spill the hidden truth behind all of this. With his own weapon raised, Min deduces there is a criminal syndicate called the Network shielding the boy from the authorities. The famous emblem reappears, revealing a massive Korean crime syndicate completely wrapped in deep mysteries. The corporation uses troubled students spread across the country, operating in the shadows like an organization based on isolated cells. This system is made up of several small groups disconnected from one another, which makes federal investigations extremely difficult. Thanks to this extreme barrier of protection, figuring out the faction's true structure and leaders becomes an almost impossible task. Despite the extreme difficulty, the mercenary keeps his relentless focus, knowing he has to track down the syndicate's top brass no matter what. His initial contract file revealed a slight suspicion of a connection to the crime group, sparking this whole manhunt in the country. The casino's notes indicated the urgency of verifying the network's involvement in the impossible mission he took on. This deep investigation is necessary because the main target of the contract is hidden at the very top of that pyramid. Interrupting his thoughts, Su charges forward at full speed, furious that his opponent just zoned out in the middle of their talk. Getting in his enemy's face, the criminal asks if the agent thinks his face is funny. Min realizes the guy is his big break. Through prior digging, the MC discovered the boy's ties to the faction, making him the perfect bait during the useless shootout. Dodging the rubber bullets effortlessly, the mercenary judges the attacker for trying to steal his fake girlfriend and acting like a total psycho. To secure his first step toward the faction leader, Min delivers a swift sweep, knocking the criminal out of the air before he even finishes speaking. With the upper hand in physical combat, the agent steps forward, ready to end the rookie's pathetic game. The metallic sound echoes as he locks his gear's mechanism, agreeing with his own internal conclusions. Right after, the MC fires a brutal shot cutting through the hallway air with his lethal weapon. Still uselessly trying to resist, the boy aims his toy and angrily claims the mercenary is now going to meet his definitive end. However, the hot barrel of the agent's equipment presses straight into Su's forehead in a split second, finishing the boy's sentence with pure irony. Giving zero chance to defend, Min puts his weapon away and unloads an intense flurry of punches, crushing his adversary who screams in agony non-stop. Completely wrecked by the rain of blows, Su stumbles with a bruised face, barely having enough strength to breathe. Taking advantage of the wide, open guard, the agent uses the weight of his own weapon to deliver a devastating strike to the opponent's head. The impact of the physical punishment throws the criminal into the building floor, cracking the tiles with extreme violence. With the target neutralized, Min calmly pops open a soda can, asking if the kid is going to keep pushing this act. Taking a sip, the mercenary stares at the pathetic fallen figure and calls his adversary by his true title of a thug. Leaning against the wall while taking a break with his cola, the MC hears the target grumble weakly that he isn't to blame for this. Clutching his wrecked stomach, Su tries to play the victim, claiming he is not the villain of this whole story. A dark and lonely scene takes shape in the boy's memory, showing the closed windows of an empty bedroom. In the past, the guy used to sit on the floor in that darkness, staring at his phone screen and muttering the student's name obsessively. The screen displayed an absurd string of ignored messages, demanding attention and begging for a simple voice call with the young woman. Consumed by obsessive fury, the criminal boiled with rage, believing all that silence was just a big joke. An old photo showed the girl looking terrified next to him, but he twisted the memory, claiming she thought his actions were cool. Squeezing the fake toy tight in his hands, the boy repeated in his head that she had praised him the first time he ever fired a weapon. Surrounded by several pellet guns and ammo boxes in his filthy room, the guy cried, hugging his knees, claiming he trained so hard just to impress her. Staring at the city through the window like a true lunatic, Su considered himself just a wronged guy, cruelly betrayed by the woman he loved the most. Min drinks his soda peacefully and comments that this excuse of playing the victim is a pretty creative new twist. Su gets up from the floor aiming his weapon, while starting to declare his bizarre love for the student. The criminal screams at the top of his lungs that he truly loves the girl. Taking another sip, the agent just listens to the adversary insist his feelings are pure and totally real. The student stays huddled on the hallway floor, feeling absolute terror at that sick declaration. Showing zero remorse, the attacker claims he is completely crazy in love with her. Raising the tool with both hands, he swears with every fiber of his being that his love is the greatest of all. At that moment, the mercenary reaches inside his jacket as the target declares that if he cannot be with the young woman. The criminal aims the equipment downward, yelling furiously that no one else can have her either. The girl covers her ears in despair, waiting for the absolute worst impact of that extreme situation. Dropping his soda can, the agent steps up, realizing he has already messed things up in this life anyway. With his face bathed in tears of rage, the former classmate proposes a macabre marriage in the next life before pulling the trigger. An intense sequence of shots lights up the dark hallway with violent flashes filling the silence. The projectiles shatter the building's windows, sending shards of glass flying everywhere in the chaos. The continuous impact strikes straight into the heavy frame of a fridge sitting in the middle of the path. Multiple empty casings hit the floor, marking the end of the out-of-control attacker's desperate spray. The weapon's mechanism locks up, revealing the ammo clip is completely empty. Panting and with a bruised face, Su tries to catch his breath after unloading all his blind rage. Behind a large household appliance, Kang Min praises the quality and toughness of Korean-made products. The mercenary hides next to the student and notes that the fridge was tough enough to take the impact of the rounds. The girl looks at her savior, completely baffled by his protective move in such a risky moment. Peeking around the corner, the agent hears the target confusingly ask who he really is beneath that disguise. The criminal watches the scene from afar, wanting to know why anyone would dive into a rain of projectiles just to save the life of some random girl. Unable to find any logic in it, the boy's face shows massive mental confusion over what just happened. Soon, an absurd conclusion pops into the shooter's head, refusing to believe the theory he just came up with. The student stays in shock, while the ex-classmate's delusion takes on even more insane and baseless proportions. Remembering the young woman's empty apartment, he starts deducing the two were together in that place just a bit earlier. Consumed by jealousy and madness, the guy makes a terrible face, refusing to accept that it could be true. With a dark and teasing look, the MC asks if the opponent is absolutely sure he wants to know the answer. Keeping up the intimate couple act, Kang jokes he is even a little embarrassed to say the truth out loud. Dominated by pure hate, the criminal charges forward, running and cursing the mercenary with all his might. With a perfect reflex, the agent violently throws his empty weapon, stopping the opponent's threat right in its tracks. The equipment hits Su square in the face, shattering into several pieces from the absurd force of the sudden impact. The boy's eye widens as he feels the extreme pain hit his body completely by surprise. The fake tool slips from his injured hand and falls bloodied onto the cold hallway floor. Grabbing his own wrecked fingers, the target screams in total agony, feeling despair take over his body. Putting a finger to his lips sadistically, the MC tells the kid to shut up so he doesn't wake the neighbors. The youth shrinks his shoulders in terror, hearing the threat that he will lose his whole hand if he keeps yelling. At that, a real imposing firearm is revealed, firmly gripped in the agent's hands. Sweating cold, the ex-classmate hears that from this moment on, the little pretend game has come to its definitive end. Aiming coldly, Kang Min warns that the next shot will be with real, lethal ammo. Pale with terror, the criminal stutters, unable to believe he is facing such absolute danger. The dark barrel of the tool points right at him, sealing his ruthless fate that night. The mercenary's finger lightly squeezes the trigger, preparing to finish the job once and for all. Without a second thought, the attacker turns around and scrambles away on all fours, screaming he doesn't want to lose his life here. Watching the pathetic escape, the MC mutters that the kid took way too long to make that cowardly move. The apartment kitchen remains silent and dark after the huge midnight commotion fades away. Wearing his jacket hood, the agent mutters to himself that the target should have started running a lot earlier. Far away, the busy streets of the downtown area shine bright under the well-lit night. A large neon sign advertises the entrance of a theme shop, catching the eye of folks walking on the sidewalk. An employee dressed in a cute outfit smilingly invites pedestrians in the middle of the bustling street. Running desperately, Su ends up violently crashing into the promo girl, tossing the poor woman aside. Without apologizing, the runaway curses at the woman as he keeps up his frantic sprint far away from danger. Sweat pours down the kid's face as he stresses out, wondering how long this chase in his life will go on. Calm, steady footsteps match the runaway's pace without showing the slightest rush to catch him. With his face hidden in the shadows of the hood, Kang Min keeps walking imposingly while the target yells, demanding to know how far he will follow him. Looking at the startled pedestrians, the criminal tries to excuse himself, asking what he did that was so terribly wrong. In the middle of the huge avenue intersection, the guy screams at the crowd, begging to know what his real mistake was. Surrounded by ordinary people, the youth tries to distort reality, swearing he was the one used by the student in the past. Crying in frustration in the middle of the street, Su claims to be the great victim of the story and tearfully asks why only he is getting the short end of the stick. Stopping casually on the sidewalk, the agent checks his phone and praises the endless energy the target still has. Looking at the glowing screen, the MC mentally gives thanks for having reached the destination way faster than originally planned. The device shows the option to screen mirror to an external monitor, marking the start of his final, humiliating play. In the background, the criminal keeps up his desperate run while the giant building screens suddenly light up. The runaway's eye twitches as he notices a weird shift in the crowd around him, stopping to watch something huge. The people on the street stop immediately, starting to whisper about what is playing on the square's main jumbotron. Several pedestrians point curiously, questioning the guy's weird pose in the video and making jokes about the totally bizarre situation. Completely horrified, Su hears people making fun of the size of his private parts exposed for the whole city to see. The screen shows in high definition the embarrassing recording of the kid acting alone in his own room. Believing he is living an absurd nightmare, the youth drops to his knees, screaming furiously that the size isn't accurate. Facing the crowd laughing at his face, he desperately tries to explain that on that specific day he was just not feeling well. Hidden on the sidewalk, Kang Min lets out a muffled laugh, finding the adversary's humiliation incredibly hilarious. With his soul completely crushed, the criminal realizes his public life and any shred of dignity just went straight down the drain. Turning to the mercenary Hyen, Sue asks in disbelief if he was the one responsible for leaking the worst video of all on the public jumbotron. The crosswalk signal flashes green, silently confirming the agent has absolute control over that entire humiliation. The crosswalk signal turns red, indicating danger on the busy avenue. Desperate from the public humiliation, Hyen, Sue runs wildly into the street, screaming for them to take the video down. Right then, a deafening hunk invades the area, making the boy turn his head in pure shock. With no time to react, a speeding truck hits the runaway with a brutal impact. The people around cover their mouths in terror at the severity of the sudden accident. On the giant screen, the embarrassing recording finally glitches and goes offline for good. Watching it all from above, Kang Min wonders if the target ended up kicking the bucket in such a pathetic way. Down below, the crowd goes into a total panic, wondering if the kid survived. Hidden in the shadows with his hood, the mercenary notes this unforeseen accident definitely wasn't part of his original plan. Sighing deeply, the agent doesn't seem to care too much about the bizarre twist. Staring at the chaotic scene on the street, he concludes the kids simply reaped what he sowed, while the crowd calls for rescue. The next morning, the sun shines over the large school courtyard where students gather. In the hallways, the trending topic already starts spreading fast among the student body. The bully leader excitedly tells the class that the missing Hyen, Sue, got run over by a truck. One of the classmates confirms the gossip, saying the crazy accident is already making the rounds on all social media. So, showing his phone screen, the student claims the guy has become the biggest topic in the whole country and his mind must be totally shattered. The crew mocks him, saying the school finally produced a celebrity and now he will be cheered for any dumb thing he does. Sitting at her desk, the girl grumbles internally that the situation is exactly the opposite, thinking her classmates are a bunch of idiots. She gets furious at her own luck, remembering the lunatic decided to show up at her house just to get into an accident right after. Rubbing her temples, the student complains about an unbearable headache taking over her body. Trying to force her memory, the young woman realizes everything from last night feels like a dark blur, like a movie had been cut. The only clear thing is the moment she screamed in terror when that creep broke into her apartment. After passing out, she has a brief glimpse of Kang Min carrying her and praising the quality of Korean home appliances. In the fuzzy memory, the mercenary comments on how the fridge was sturdy enough to take the impact of the shots. The image of her savior walking away into the darkness keeps playing confusingly in the girl's mind. Slowly, the mysterious figure seems to turn around and walk back toward her. At that, the sound of footsteps gets closer, and the guy's voice calmly asks if she is awake yet. Wearing a flawless suit, he tells her the place became a real mess, but asks her not to worry about a thing. Totally startled, the young woman wakes up and comes face to face with a specialized team in hazmat suits cleaning up the whole clash scene. Adjusting his glasses with a professional vibe, the agent reveals they are wiping away all the dirt, including her memories. The student's eyes completely lose their spark, confirming the memory wipe worked perfectly. Back in the classroom, she touches her own face, feeling a strange emptiness, realizing things don't quite add up. The scene shifts to the cold city night, showing a streetlight illuminating a completely deserted road. Kang Min strolls relaxed through the neighborhood, carrying a small shopping bag in his hands. Sighing in frustration, he grumbles about the incredible difficulty of finding a convenience store around there that sells smokes. Annoyed with his disguise, the agent asks why on earth his fake age had to be a 17-year-old teen. Dragging his feet on the asphalt, he mourns the forced years without a smoke and the fact he will still have to do military service in the future. Suddenly, a voice comes out of nowhere greeting the young man, who immediately turns his head to check the situation. Stepping out of the shadows, a very sharply dressed man calls the MC by his real name in a very serious tone. Without losing his cool, the guy mocks the suspicious move of an adult approaching a student at night, making the stranger apologize for the trouble. The suit gets straight to the point and mentions the huge hacked jumbotron incident downtown the night before. With a smirk, the mysterious man confesses he was extremely impressed by the new kid's display of skill. Holding up a black card with a bizarre insignia, he formally introduces himself as a member of the grand faction called the Network. Staring at the recruiter without a single hint of surprise, the mercenary internally celebrates that the bait worked at the exact right moment. Flashing a dangerous smile, the boy concludes that creating a mess involving one of their members was the perfect tactic to draw out the top brass. The memory of the giant screen showing the target's humiliation confirms the scale of the damage done last night. With the recording going endlessly viral on the internet, the agent's strategy to grab attention was an absolute success. The suit recruiter states it would be impossible for the faction not to take an interest in a talent capable of causing such useful problems. Playing fake modesty, the young man jokes that he really does have a great sense for setting trends, while concluding the real game has just begun. In his mind, he goes over the fact that the standard tactic to invade a syndicate like this would be to infiltrate the lowest cells of the criminal group. Starting as a simple, isolated pawn, the agent would have to work hard on the sidelines to gain recognition little by little. Following this time-consuming method, the path to the top would require climbing step by step over a long period of dirty work. However, the mercenary analyzes that in an organization based on blind cells, the recruiter role belongs exclusively to the corporate upper echelon. This ensures that the man in the suit has direct contact with, or is extremely close to the top leader, prompting the boy to play dumb. Cutting the mystery game short, Kang Min grabs the card tossed by the recruiter, accepting the summons on the spot. With a sharp and relentless glare, the MC tells the man to lead him straight to where the supreme boss of the organization is hiding. The scene cuts abruptly, showing the traditional wooden doors of a luxurious and completely private room. Several expensive flower arrangements decorate the environment, creating an exotic atmosphere full of dangerous secrets. Wearing very elegant black lingerie, a mysterious blonde woman trims the plants in the room with sharp scissors. Cutting the stem with enormous precision, the woman admires the plant in her hands and murmurs the name of the beautiful flower. With a serene look, she explains that in some places this species is known as the Great Hawaiian Rose. Turning her face slowly, the mysterious woman begins to tell the true meaning behind that plant. Interrupting the explanation, Kang Min, showing his original adult appearance, sits on the window and deadpans that the flower is actually a reference to a juicy peach. Completely annoyed by him ruining the mood, the blonde warns that this meaning doesn't exist, but he defends himself saying it was an artificial intelligence that taught him that. Ignoring the bad joke, the casino dealer regains her seriousness and warns that she has something much more important to discuss there. Holding the gardening scissors firmly, she prepares to give a stern warning to the cocky intruder in her home. In an aggressive movement, the blonde throws the tool, which grazes the young man's head, swearing that she holds no responsibility for her own violent reactions. The scissors get stuck in the wall while she grumbles about the absurdity of the agent breaking into a woman's house like that without being invited. Analyzing his own fake passport, Kang Min listens as the blonde calls him the ace of spades and criticizes his bizarre breaking and entering hobbies. Sitting on the couch, she questions if it isn't time for his flight to Korea, but the mercenary makes up an excuse about pigeons on the runway to try and stay there a little longer. Unfazed, the woman laments his bad luck with an ironic tone, ignoring the young man's demand that he can only fall asleep on someone's lap. Putting the jokes aside, the dealer approaches, wanting to know the real reason the best agent went all the way to her hideout. Stretching his tired body, the MC recalls that the corporation always provides a perfect fake identity before every international mission. Tossing the passport on the coffee table, he reveals that this time the bosses made a bizarre mistake when handing over the mission document. The open page displays the young man's photo, confirming that the organization used his real name and true date of birth for this fatal service in Korea. The dealer seriously warns that this isn't a joke, revealing that the use of his real name was a sign of consideration from the higher-ups for when he finishes the job. Apparently, the promise is that the young man will no longer need to carry the title of best agent and will finally be able to live a completely free life. In the middle of the luxurious living room, she reinforces that from now on the young man will be able to forge his own path using his true identity. But the mercenary maintains a suspicious look, confessing that this freedom story is exactly the part he can't swallow. He recalls that he has already taken down important politicians and wiped billionaire clans off the map, receiving only large sums of money as a reward. With the scissors near the flower, the MC questions for what unusual reason the life of a simple Korean citizen would be worth his long-awaited freedom. Looking over her shoulder, the woman retorts that this was a decision made by the superiors and that discussing the matter there won't change absolutely anything. Sliding the lid off a small wooden box, the blonde states that she can only pass on the information that has already been fully verified by the organization. She explains that the document just arrived via fax, and the order was to put everything in his hands as soon as the agent set foot in the country. Holding the printed sheet, Kang Min shows a heavy expression as he reads the mysterious contents of the contract. The woman continues the explanation, revealing that the main target built his own very well-structured criminal organization. The group operates in an extremely closed scheme of isolated cells, and the agency only managed to list a small number of active members. Analyzing the photos in the document, the MC hears that his first step is precisely to make contact with some of these members. Seeing that all the listed targets are just students, the agent complains indignantly if his mission is to play house, but she tells him not to judge things so soon. Holding a red rose carefully, the blonde compares the situation to a beautiful flower that hides very dark roots underground. Sitting comfortably on the couch, the dealer completes her thought, warning that this target's syndicate must have deep secrets hidden in the shadows. The scene cuts to the cold night of the city, where a streetlight illuminates the deserted street, marking the tense meeting between the MC and the mysterious recruiter. Wasting no time, Kang Min shoves the shopping bag into the suit's chest, demanding that the man take him there. Maintaining the threatening tone, the mercenary completes the order, telling the recruiter to guide him straight to the big boss's hideout. The man with glasses remains silent for a brief moment, processing the absurd audacity of that rookie student. Staring coldly at the boy, the faction representative denies the request immediately, stating that setting up this meeting is completely impossible. The suit warns that trying any kind of intimidation won't do any good, but the agent counters the speech with pure irony. In an extremely fast movement, the young man pulls out a weapon and presses it against the recruiter's stomach, assuring him that he isn't making any threats. The sudden impact of the tool touching his body makes the man's eyes widen in pure shock. The silence of the neighborhood is broken by the suit's confused murmur, who stands completely paralyzed by the lethal attitude. Looking down, the criminal group's representative indignantly questions what the boy thinks he's doing with a plastic pellet toy. Without lowering the equipment, the MC finds the opponent's lack of fear strange, but the man retorts that his only surprise is seeing a teenager walking around with a toy. Regaining his relaxed posture, the recruiter asks with an air of superiority how the young man realized the tool was just a fake. Kang Min narrows his eyes suspiciously, pretending not to understand what the suit is trying to insinuate with that question. Displaying a smug smile, the man deduces that it would be impossible for a simple high school student to carry a real firearm in the country. Since the subject came up, the mercenary decides to give a quick explanation and points out that the fake tool is much lighter than an original one, besides having a very poorly done paint job. Handing the toy over to the man, the young man details the sound of a cheap spring and the plastic noise on the trigger, making the opponent complain that the answer should be short. Taking the cue, the boy changes the tone of the conversation and asks permission to ask just one more important question. Walking slowly along the asphalt, the agent begins to question what the man's true goal was in that situation. The recruiter looks back, intrigued, and listens as the young man asks why the faction hacked into their information network. The direct question hits the suit hard, causing his expression to change drastically from one moment to the next. Startled, the man stumbles backward, complaining about the scare and questioning why the boy started whispering in his ear out of nowhere. Massaging his own ear, Kang Min argues that the man approached first, but ends up agreeing when the recruiter reminds him that they are in front of his house. With the confusion settled, the faction representative sets up a meeting for the next day at 2 in the afternoon, at the address noted on the black card. As the suit walks away down the deserted street, the mercenary watches his steps with a very suspicious look. Turning his back, the recruiter reflects that the weapon in the boy's hand was indeed fake, but finds it weird that he smelled a strong scent of gunpowder on it. Showing a dark and calculating face, the MC immediately realizes that the man noticed the dangerous smell exuding from the equipment. Analyzing the suit's posture from afar, the agent concludes that the opponent is far from being just a simple errand boy for the syndicate. Watching the man disappear into the darkness, Kang Min is absolutely certain that this guy is an experienced mercenary working for the rival organization. The scene changes again, revealing the silent and dark interior of the apartment where the undercover agent is living. The empty environment of the room brings a heavy atmosphere of pure reflection about the next steps of that complex mission. Hanging on the closet door, the clean school uniform awaits the moment to be used once more as the perfect disguise. The agent's internal narration evaluates that the long-awaited contact with the faction has finally materialized exactly as planned. The laptop monitor displays the network's data, revealing a group that manipulates minors to generate huge social problems in the country. A heavy arsenal hanging on the wall confirms that the organization turns all this social chaos into an absurdly high profit. Their tactic consists of maintaining the illusion of being just a little illegal group formed exclusively by reckless students. However, an investigation board packed with photos and red strings proves that the rabbit hole of this conspiracy goes much deeper. Staring at the wall full of connections, Kang Min completely rejects the faction's facade, considering that lie a massive joke. Peeling a boiled egg in the shadows, he grumbles that this student farce is too weak to fool anyone experienced. Savoring the food, the young man concludes that the rival group made absolutely no effort to create a minimally convincing disguise. Looking at his own fake identity file, the mercenary complains indignantly, questioning if the agency created his character to be a massive idiot. The rest of the eggshell falls on the table as the true nature of the faction clicks perfectly into the boy's mind. The memory of the blonde dealer surfaces, highlighting that beneath the school facade, there is a giant crime syndicate operating in the shadows. Sitting on the floor of a traditional dojo, the woman asserts that this monstrous structure is the true identity of the Korean network. In the middle of the large wooden hall, she concludes that the rival group is exactly like them, but instead of a luxurious casino, the enemies use teenagers as a perfect shield. The blonde explains that in a country with such strict laws, the faction had to put minors on the front lines to efficiently fool the authorities. Observing the hall's architecture, she admits that the agency still doesn't know most of the secrets and the real reach of this group. With an incisive look, the dealer hypothesizes that the enemy organization might have the same level of influence and power as their own casino does. The image of the recruiter resurfaces, confirming that the network's intelligence must not be underestimated at any point during the hunt. Stretching her body in a relaxed way, the woman praises the syndicate's agility, finding it impressive that they noticed the rookie's presence so quickly. However, Kang Min totally disagrees with the compliment, grumbling that this approach took way too long to happen. The red string pinned to the board reflects the young man's frustration as he used every tiny fragment of available information in his searches. The crossing of the strings represents the exhaustive analysis and deep reasoning the boy applied to try to unravel the mystery. Even with all this investigative effort, the central figure of the criminal scheme remains completely hidden in the shadows. The huge web of connections on the board shows that, unfortunately, the MC hasn't even gotten close to his main target yet. The paper stuck to the wall shows only an empty silhouette accompanied by the name Lee San, the great untouchable leader of the organization. Holding a mysterious capsule between his fingers, the agent concludes that he needs to drastically speed up the pace if he wants to reach this guy. A metallic click echoes through the dark room when the mercenary opens his heavy equipment backpack to start the next phase. Staring at an armed action figure in his hands, the boy laments that if his unbearable former classmate hadn't been run over, he could have extracted valuable information. Daylight takes over the scene, revealing the facade of a large hospital, clearly indicating what the MC's next step will be. The news on television reports that a billboard at a major intersection was hacked the night before, broadcasting illegally filmed videos to the whole city. The report continues, stating that the police are tracking down the culprit, but are facing difficulties. At this, the bedridden boy asks in disbelief if the cops haven't caught the guy yet. Completely bruised, Hein Su curses the authorities, calling them useless for not being able to solve the case quickly. Looking at the TV in the hospital room, he grumbles full of anger that an innocent victim like him ended up that way because of that jerk. While messing with the IV, a doctor comments calmly that the incident was actually pretty amusing, but the patient tells the man to shut up, warning that there is nothing funny about it. The boy questions the reason the hacker did that, calling the guy a total lunatic for exposing everything like that. Sweating cold, Hein Su confesses that he wasn't an ordinary attacker, as the guy was holding a real firearm during the assault. The doctor finds the story strange and reminds him that they aren't in a country where weapons are common, but the patient desperately insists he has no idea where the equipment came from. A slight smirk appears on the fake doctor's face, who just murmurs thoughtfully as he absorbs that information. Standing next to the bed, Kang Min calmly concludes that the student truly knows absolutely nothing about what is going on. With the syringe in his hands, the undercover agent confesses that he hoped to squeeze at least some useful information out of there, leaving the boy confused about the direction of the conversation. After flicking the syringe to remove the air, the mercenary comments in a dark tone that the patient has finally become an official adult. With his face covered in shadows, the doctor decrees that the boy's participation in this whole story has just come to an end. Lying motionless, Hein Su widens his eyes, feeling the tension rise, questioning what kind of nonsense the man is talking about. Annoyed by the threatening tone, the student warns that this has crossed the line and questions if the guy is even a real doctor. The IV bag hanging on the stand reflects the heavy mood that takes over the hospital room. Sweat drips down the patient's face as he swallows hard and repeats the question, trying to confirm if the man really is a professional working there. Sunlight streams through the window, illuminating the silent room, but the calm contrasts with the dread that begins to dominate the boy. Standing by the stretcher, Kang Min ignores the despair and comments very naturally that the whole situation will make for an excellent newspaper article. The mercenary begins to narrate the future, describing a tragic end caused by a simple medication error made by the staff of a major hospital. Displaying a cold smile, the agent squeezes the syringe and decrees that this will be the perfect headline to cover up the incident from that morning. Completely paralyzed, Hein Su stammers, repeating the fake doctor's words, not wanting to believe his end is so near. With a desperate jolt, the boy sits up, shouting to know why this crazy conversation came out of nowhere. However, the sudden movement is interrupted by the metallic clink of handcuffs securing the student's wrist to the bed's iron bar. Entering absolute panic, he struggles with all his might against the chains, screaming for the man to take that off him immediately. Consumed by the purest terror, the criminal yells, calling the doctor a psychopath and demanding to know why he is being treated that way. Watching the pathetic scene, the MC touches his chin and ironically realizes that he ended up forgetting to make his formal introduction. The student continues forcing the handcuff until it hurts his wrist, while he hears the man reveal that he came on behalf of the criminal organization. In the agent's hand, a small black token with the faction's bizarre symbol is displayed as proof of that dark alliance. Min's face disappears into the shadows as he assumes the fake identity, firmly stating that he is part of the network's upper echelon. With his face covered in bruises, the boy stops his tantrum and lets out a confused murmur as he processes the faction's name. A shrill and disturbing noise echoes through the patient's mind, further increasing the terror of facing a member of that lethal group. Trembling non-stop, the boy remembers a terrible rumor and reports that this injection makes the victim bleed heavily from the face before succumbing. The student's handcuffed hand loses its strength and drops heavily. The fake doctor confesses that merely hearing about this end never really moved him much. Facing the defeated boy, Kang Min adds that seeing the dread up close is quite fascinating and takes the opportunity to note down the time of his next appointment. The scene shifts to the sunny downtown where traffic flows normally, oblivious to the problems of the underworld. Standing at the agreed location, the curly-haired recruiter shows an anxious expression waiting for contact with the mercenary. Holding the organization's emblem, the man looks around and grumbles in irritation, wanting to know why the place is completely empty. The meeting plaza remains deserted, making the faction representative let out a heavy sigh of pure frustration. At that, a young man in a hoodie approaches with slow steps. The recruiter immediately recognizes the disguise and calls out the agent's fake name. With a very cocky attitude, Kang Min stretches his body lazily, smiling as he asks if the suit waited for too long. Near the coffee shop, the man fires back at the provocation, trying to command respect on behalf of the criminal group he represents. Bothered by the delay, the recruiter questions if foreign customs don't teach punctuality. The young man merely apologizes, making up a quick, unforeseen event. The man analyzes the boy's simple clothes and is suspicious of the change, joking that the setup looks like a pyramid scheme where the rich guy shows up first. Laughing at the comparison, the mercenary denies the theory, stating that his clothes might be cheap, but he is soon interrupted by the loud honking of a car. A luxurious white car parks on the street, drawing all the attention. The agent jokes that their escort will be top tier, leaving the recruiter in shock. The criminal group representative's eye widens when he realizes the absurd value of the vehicle parked right in front of him. In a bizarre move, the man licks the hood ornament, stating that joining the faction was the best choice of his life, while the mercenary watches with total disgust. Ignoring the secondhand embarrassment, Kang Min suggests they get in the car right away. The recruiter opens the door, all excited about the VIP ride. The imposing vehicle accelerates rapidly, making its way through the wide expressways of the Korean capital. Inside the car, the strong wind messes up the recruiter's hair, who screams in desperation at the insane speed they are reaching. Clinging to the seat for dear life, the man praises the vehicle's powerful engine, but stutters a warning that it's way too dangerous. The highway sign passes in a blur as the passenger yells in panic, stating that an accident on that road would be the end of everything. The MC maintains his calm and tries to soothe his colleague, assuring him with a smile that a light impact wouldn't cause a fatal disaster. However, the agent's face soon darkens. He warns in a sinister tone that, at that specific speed, they would face a fate much worse than simply passing on to the next life. Describing the macabre scenario, the mercenary explains that the first impact would throw their bodies out, breaking their skulls or spines in the process. Continuing the graphic story, he details that the victim would scrape across the hot asphalt, suffering severe burns from all the friction. To top it all off, the boy concludes that a second car would crash into the wreckage, pulling the broken body under the wheels. Completely terrified by the description, the recruiter questions if the young man spent his whole life studying terrible ways to end people. Displaying a sharp and dangerous smile, Kang Min repeats the man's sentence, finding the question incredibly interesting. Glancing sideways at the passenger, the undercover agent firmly states that the man understands this much better than he does. The suit's eye twitches slightly as he realizes that his amateur acting isn't convincing anyone in there anymore. Sweating cold, the man tries to keep up the charade, claiming that the conversation gives him the chills and asking how he would know such horrible things. The desperate smile morphs into a sadistic and dangerous look. The suit concludes that the boy isn't as good an actor as he thought. Without beating around the bush, the man pronounces the mercenary's true title, calling him the casino's ace of spades. Kang Min freezes in the car seat, realizing that the situation has just flipped upside down in the blink of an eye. Completely surprised by the sudden revelation, the young man lets out a confused murmur, unable to believe what he just heard. With his eyes wide open in pure shock, the MC demands to know what the man in the suit just said. Showing off the wristwatch that marks the exact time, the passenger mockingly asks if he should start with his formal introduction. Gesturing arrogantly, the man smiles and introduces himself as the person the mercenary has been so desperately looking for all this time. Exuding a threatening aura under the red lights, the suit finally reveals his true identity, declaring loud and clear that he is Lee San. The scene cuts to a luxurious office, where an employee wearing glasses coldly reports that the mess from the previous night has already been properly resolved. The faction's cleanup manager explains that the major billboard incident was perfectly classified as the isolated act of a minor. Analyzing the data on a holographic virtual panel, the man confirms that all digital damage and camera footage have been completely wiped from existence. To wrap up the perfect report for the boss, he notes that the witness girl didn't suffer physical injuries, so the team just used heavy drugs to erase her memories for good. Continuing from the previous context, the cleanup manager, wearing glasses and a suit, evaluates the situation, stating that the girl suffered no kind of external injury. The man explains that the lack of visible wounds doesn't rule out internal issues, assuring they'll run the necessary tests while the undercover agent takes selfies. At that, the suit stops talking and gets completely confused by the fake doctor's bizarre attitude right in the middle of a serious briefing. Holding his phone, Kang Min completely ignores the report and asks if his acting as a healthcare professional was convincing enough. Several casual selfies, the MC shares that he spent the whole night binge, watching medical dramas to train, asking the man to just keep going with the explanation. Getting back on track, the manager continues his report while the boy takes more pictures, revealing that he did a deep background check on that rookie. Based on the official documents, the man states that the kid seemed to be just another ordinary high school student with nothing new to report. However, the cleanup crew discovered that absolutely all of his academic and administrative records were perfectly forged. Through an international contact specialized in this kind of disguise, they finally managed to uncover the boy's true identity. The slow footsteps in the hallway mark the suspense of the big revelation the manager is about to make. The suit firmly decrees that the fake student is actually an extremely dangerous mercenary for hire coming straight from overseas. Kang Min looks over his shoulder, watching the man repeat the threatening title with a lot of disbelief. Walking right behind the agent, the employee comments that the idea of a lethal professional wasting time with a little school fight sounds absurd and unreal. Playing along, the MC shows a cynical face and fully agrees that the whole situation sounds like one big lie impossible to believe. But the manager quickly ruins the mood, revealing that this isn't exactly what he finds so unreal in that whole story. Under the flickering light of the hospital hallway, the man confesses that the most shocking part of it all isn't the boy's profession, but his true affiliation. Turning his head, completely surprised, Kang Min listens as the suit states that the great shock is due to the fact that he belongs to the luxurious casino. Shock takes over the MC's eyes upon hearing the name of his secret organization exposed so easily like that. Trying to confirm the info, the agent asks if the man is really talking about his workplace, getting an immediate yes. The fluorescent ceiling light keeps flickering, reflecting the silent tension that dominates the room between the two. Sighing in awe, the employee clasps his hands together, amazed to be standing before a member of the underworld's greatest syndicate. Quickly changing his posture, Kang Min hides his shock and eagerly claps his hands, joking that he should ask for an autograph from the very important person they are hunting. The memory of the present moment returns abruptly, showing the imposing luxury car cutting through the city streets at high speed. In the passenger seat, the faction recruiter shows off his expensive watch and introduces himself very politely to the young man. Exuding an aura of unquestionable power, the suit reveals his true name, introducing himself as Lee San, the great untouchable leader. The mercenary's face completely freezes, overcome by an absurd perplexity at that unexpected revelation. Unable to process the information properly, the boy merely repeats the leader's name, trying to understand how things escalated so fast. The confidential file of his mission pops back into his mind, clearly showing that this very same name belonged to his final target. In his memory, the elegant blonde dealer slid the document across the table, warning that the mysterious man was hiding in the country's capital. The agent's eye widens, showing that all the pieces of the puzzle just click together in a terrifying way. Lee-san remains extremely calm in the car seat, observing the mercenary's disturbed reaction beside him. With a subtle movement, the faction leader slides his hand across the vehicle's upholstery, shortening the distance between them. Leaning in close, the suit whispers in a challenging tone, suggesting the boy end him right there, if that is his grand plan. Regaining his composure, Kang Min points his finger simulating a gun and tells the opponent to use his head to think more rationally. Keeping his confident pose, the agent counters that he would never go totally unprepared for a direct meeting with the rival faction's upper echelon. Suddenly, the roar of a powerful engine catches the MC's attention, causing him to look out the window in alarm. An aerial view reveals the luxurious white car completely surrounded by a fleet of dark pickup trucks acting as a massive armed escort. Looking out the corner of his eye, Lee-san coldly mentions that he brought some friends to ensure security, advising the boy not to try anything funny. Adjusting his tie elegantly, the leader shows he has absolute control of the entire situation mid-ride. Instead of feeling cornered, Kang Min flashes a cunning smile upon being recognized by his prestigious organizational title. The leader's triumphant expression gives way to a slightly worried look upon notice something strange in the young man's attitude. Realizing the mercenary is way too confident, the suit silently concludes that things have gone off script. The scene shifts to the brightly lit facade of a cozy coffee shop in the middle of a very quiet neighborhood. On top of a table, the confidential folder with the mission's brand rests, while a voice states that the secret identity has probably already been exposed by now. Sitting on the balcony in casual clothes, the casino partner, who goes by 3 of Hearts, admits she made the disguise purposely sloppy. Resting her face in her hands, the partner questions if her superior is really okay with such a major flaw in the agent's cover. Calmly stirring her coffee, the mysterious woman hears her subordinate recall that official protocol demands the creation of flawless, untraceable identities. Revealing her presence, the blonde casino leader listens to her colleague ask if she wasn't the one who taught that golden rule in the past. The subordinate tries to guess the reason for the loophole, asking if management wanted to use the mistake to lure and eliminate some unwanted threat right off the bat. Discarding this absurd idea shortly after. Taking a sip of tea, the blonde very calmly explains that to quickly reach the top of an enemy organization, one must expose oneself. The boss guarantees that this risky move was a judgment call made exclusively by the mercenary himself to speed up the mission process. Understanding the tactic, the partner excitedly concludes that the goal is to spark the main target's interest and force them to come after the boy. Relaxing in her chair, the subordinate approves of the method, but then questions what the next step would be after getting that attention. She makes a dark analogy, pointing out that if the enemy leader figures out the agent's true intentions, the MC will certainly be crushed and defeated without mercy. The casino leader remains serious, listening to the fatal prediction, awaiting her best professional in the distant country. With a sharp look, the boss asks if her colleague knows what the most perfect and foolproof way to deceive someone is. The partner flashes a malicious smile and tries to guess the answer, suggesting that the secret is using a grand, seductive trap. A sugar cube is released into the air as the blonde corrects her, stating that the best strategy is taking the pure truth and slightly modifying it. The sugar dives into the coffee cup to illustrate the advice of adding just a tiny spoonful of lies into the real story. The sweet sinks, creating small ripples in the dark drink, sealing the great lesson on how to build the ultimate manipulation. Back on the expressway, the fleet of trucks continues to surround the luxury car in an impenetrable security setup. Inside the vehicle, Kang Min breaks the tension, stating with absolute certainty that he already knows absolutely all of the target's secrets. Lee-san remains silent, observing the boy, unsure of what kind of information the mercenary is about to use against him. The MC leans in, claiming to know the real reason the suit returned to the country, hiding his own identity. Whispering up close, the young man plays his trump card, declaring that the leader is being ruthlessly hunted by the casino itself. The mercenary pulls back, judging the attitude as a giant recklessness, questioning if betraying the syndicate just for the desire of freedom was worth it. Cornered by the boy's words, the faction leader lowers his face, feeling the weight of that dangerous and extremely precise deduction. Min sighs, complaining about something that annoyed him a lot, demanding the man spill all the details of that crazy escape. With his face plunged in shadows, the target internally celebrates, realizing the situation just fell into a completely favorable scenario for him. Looking at the clouds, the suit decides to follow exactly the coffee cup tactic, preparing his spoonful of lie mixed into the truth. Lee San's brilliant mind begins mixing all the incidents he experienced to craft a new and convincing story. Buying time, he slowly turns his head, murmuring that he doesn't know where to start explaining this long tragedy. Inventing the past, the target recounts that after concluding one last major mission involving a political bigwig, he was promised retirement. The man says he bought the ticket firmly believing he would enjoy eternal peace going back to his homeland. However, adjusting his seatbelt, he lies, claiming the casino never planned to set him free, deducing that Kang Min is also running desperately from the same punishment. Resuming the conversation in the car, Kang Min asks why Lee San is so desperate for attention, suggesting he should have hidden much more carefully. A small dessert waits stored in the vehicle's compartment. At that, the MC completes his own thought, stating that he acted this way precisely to force a response from the adversary. The faction leader adjusts his posture in the seat and counters using an old saying about hiding a puppy inside a pet shop so as not to raise suspicions. Staring at the sweet in his hands, the young man confesses that the Bathala organization will try to take him out at any moment, and so he needs something strong to protect himself. The small pudding cup rests peacefully in the mercenary's hands. Spotting the opening, the suit offers total protection in exchange for the boy's services to his corporation. The clock on the dashboard of the luxury car marks the passage of time during the tense negotiation. Relaxed in his seat, Kang Min jokes that relying on a group made entirely of students isn't asking too much, questioning if he ended up in the wrong place. With a more serious expression, Lee San holds his own spoon and begins to explain the true nature of his faction. He states without hesitation that the network is, in fact, a professional group of ruthless mercenaries. The sound of the spoon clinking in the coffee cup echoes as the conversation reveals that the underage members are just a giant smokescreen. Far away, the casino boss drinks her coffee and confirms that the teenagers are merely a disposable cover to hush up the most serious cases. The short-haired partner asks confusedly if the accident involving the agent would be covered up in that same silly way, but the leader denies it immediately. Intrigued by her superior's confidence, the subordinate asks what the basis would be to be so sure the plan wouldn't fail. Taking another elegant sip, the blonde calmly asks if she really needs any proof. The boss exudes confidence and reinforces the weight the boy carries by bearing the feared title of the casino's ace of spades. Meanwhile, the luxury car continues its fast trip down the city's wide avenues. Back to the conversation in the vehicle, Lee San evaluates the idea of the enemy's best agent joining his own organization. With an astute look, the suit admits that this is definitely an extremely tempting offer. However, Kang Min rejects the proposal on the spot, jokingly justifying that things are already sweet enough for him. The faction leader lowers his face and warns that eating too much sugar rots your teeth, revealing a huge dread of going to the dentist. The security fleet keeps escorting the main vehicle through heavy traffic. The car's dashboard tracks the time while the man argues that the agent's story might be full of lies and ulterior motives. The MC shows confidence and agrees that the situation is exactly like that. Staring at the untouched dessert, he compares that entire negotiation to a veritable poison chalice. Satisfied with the answer, the suit says he really enjoyed the chat, but decrees that the connection between them ends there. The young man is left completely confused and lets out a soft sound of bewilderment at the sudden breaking of the deal. Frustrated by the metaphors, the agent complains that the man could have been direct instead of beating around the bush talking about dentists, demanding to know what that meant. Watching the scenery out the window, Lee San explains that taking the boy in could trigger a massive armed conflict against Bathala. Turned backwards in the seat, the MC taunts the enemy leader, directly asking if he is scared. The mercenary points out that, for a simple meeting, the man brought a whole crowd of subordinates for protection. The reflection in the rearview mirror shows the escort cars, while the agent jokes that the opponent is deathly terrified of the rival organization. With an intimidating attitude, Lee San places a hand on the boy's shoulder and admits that his faction controls only Korean territory. Scary looking, the suit claims he refused the deal simply because they would win the conflict anyway. The scene suddenly changes to an abandoned and rusty Ferris wheel beneath a dark sky. An old carousel horse worn out by time reinforces the atmosphere of total abandonment of the place. Stepping out of the vehicle, the criminal leader comments that he hasn't visited an amusement park in 10 years, finding that atmosphere quite different from what he remembered. Staring at the bizarre, worn-out statues on the ground, Kang Min ironically asks if they arrived right in time for Halloween season. Standing next to the car, the suit explains that this space was closed down and forgotten a long time ago. The trunk opens with a jolt while the leader emphasizes that there are no people or security cameras around. The MC gets a huge scare when he sees a bloody bag in the trunk, hearing that the place is perfect for disposing of unwanted people. Noticing the package moving, the boy listens to the man confess that the initial plan was to eliminate the mercenary right there along with that person. Upon noting the use of the past tense, the agent shows relief, concluding that the leader finally changed his mind about the attack. Completely confident, Kang Min reveals that he noticed something very strange as soon as he got the first report on the enemy. The student's photo surfaces again while the employee's voice recalls that the witness had no visible injuries, resulting in the memory wipe. Holding the girl's photograph, the suit questions how she came out intact from a scenario where projectiles were flying everywhere. The image of the girl reinforces the leader's massive doubt about why the mercenary fought only to protect her. With his back turned, Lee San dismisses the idea of professional ethics, pointing out that eliminating the witness would be easier, and that causing a huge scandal seemed to be the agent's real goal. Glaring at the boy with suspicion, the faction leader questions if the great hitman has ended up forming emotional attachments. The suit's silhouette keeps the tension in the air as he prepares his big reveal. The bag in the trunk is ripped open, revealing the student fully tied up and gagged, confirming the villain's suspicions. Desperate, the girl struggles, crying and trying to scream through the tight gag. The MC freezes for a moment, saying the classmate's name in total disbelief at the situation. Leaning in closer to the prisoner, the agent tries to mask his shock by asking the meaning behind all that dramatic staging. The park's dead landscape reflects the leader's cruel test, who wants to prove if the boy really is the great weapon of the enemy casino. Showing a forced attitude, the suit suggests the young man get rid of the woman, but quickly changes his mind. Offering the small spoon with the dessert, Lee San gives the bizarre order for the mercenary to eat a large portion of the sweet. With a sadistic, testing look, the villain promises to accept the alliance if the boy proves he has no weaknesses. Recent photos of the couple pop up in memory while the leader mocks, doubting an elite professional would get carried away by such pathetic emotional attachment. The macabre clown statue intensifies the disturbing mood while the leader pressures the boy to hurry up with the test. The MC stares at the small spoon of dessert in silence, processing the bizarre order he just received. Tied up and terrified, the student cries, waiting for the fatal decision that will define her fate. Sadistic, the suit extends the spoon, mocking if he should offer a family-sized portion to the kid. The scene cuts suddenly to a diner, where a colossal ice cream sundae, over 3 feet long, is served at the table. The two school bullies stare at the giant dessert in complete shock at the exaggerated size of the order. Sitting at the restaurant, they grumble that eating all that will fill anyone's brain with liquid sugar. One of their phones tries to call the student, while the guy remembers that she was the one who insisted on eating that monstrosity. Eating a spoonful of his own sweet, the bully listens to the voicemail and jokes, asking if their classmate got kidnapped out of nowhere. The sight of the gloomy Ferris wheel brings the narrative back to the harsh, tense reality in the abandoned park. The criminal leader's hand remains extended, reinforcing the absolute order for the mercenary to eat the pudding. The undercover agent's face shows pure confidence and coldness as the enemy's voice echoes, promising the alliance. The young prisoner shrinks in the trunk while the villain repeats the taunt about the boy's supposed emotional attachment. With the spoon held firmly, the MC assesses the situation amidst the heavy silence of that toy graveyard. Tears stream down the girl's face, shaking with terror as she hears the leader's sadistic taunt echo once again. Staring at the spoon in silence, the mercenary reviews the crucial details of his main mission. The contract file pops up in his mind, confirming that the man in front of him is the big target. Thoughtful, the MC concludes that his ultimate goal is literally one step away. It would be enough to finish off that guy right there for his entire job in the country to be over. However, a dangerous suspicion arises, making the agent question if that suit is truly the real leader. The boy raises the hypothesis that he's dealing with a cheap, double placed there precisely to test his intentions. Evaluating the risks, he calculates that the chances of it being a trap are 50%. If he decides to act on impulse and take out a random lookalike, the consequences would be absolutely disastrous. The real boss would notice the betrayal immediately and vanish off the map without a trace. Looking at the terrified girl in the trunk, the boy understands that acting hastily right now would be a fatal mistake. Facing this risky scenario, the undercover agent decides that the only safe option is to keep playing the enemy's little game. Very naturally, Kang Min brings the sweet to his mouth, while the suit taunts him, reminding him of the confidence he was flaunting earlier. The enemy leader tries to mock the hesitation, but is interrupted when the mercenary attacks the student suddenly and brutally. The MC's relentless glare shows not the slightest sign of doubt or pity for the girl's situation. The young prisoner collapses inside the trunk, letting out a muffled groan after taking the direct hit. Utterly astonished, the suit murmurs, confirming that the boy really had the guts to attack the girl mercilessly. However, the body in the trunk starts to twist in a bizarre way, displaying a terrifying and macabre smile. With an indifferent posture, the mercenary states that he noticed the farce set up by the enemy from the very first second. He explains that a disguise might even look perfect on the outside, but it is impossible to hide the true body structure underneath the clothes. Sighing tiredly at the act, the young man asks what the point of all that is, and quickly notices something strange in the environment. A loud and distorted voice echoes through the abandoned park speakers, asking if the boy can hear him clearly. The broadcast complains in disappointment that he prepared this whole big surprise, but the agent's reaction was way too boring. Standing in the middle of the empty scenery, Kang Min listens to the voice confirm that the person in the car was just an imposter in disguise. Suddenly, the fake girl rises from the trunk, forcing the heavy chains, revealing herself to be a contractor for the faction itself. With a sinister smile, the bizarre figure corrects the info, warning that, actually, he is a former syndicate member. In a disturbing move, the imposter rips off his own facial mask, revealing his true identity as a deserter. The old Ferris wheel in the background sets the perfect scene for that freak show that is just starting. Breaking the chains with absurd ease, the traitor grumbles that he didn't understand why he was captured just to put on that theater. The deserter, named Lee Daniel, shows off his scars and ironically asks if this whole mess was just a surprise party. Staring at the new opponent, the MC suspects this betrayal story and mutters that this entire situation seems way too convenient. The voice on the speaker praises the agent's sharp perception, confirming that he catches on very quickly. The enemy leader continues the broadcast, asserting that the only thing the agent and the traitor have in common is the imminent risk of elimination. Taking advantage of their desperation, the sadistic announcer declares that he has prepared a real survival match. The rule of the bizarre game is simple, demanding they fight with everything they've got, because only the ultimate winner will be accepted into the faction. The speaker barely begins to give the starting signal before being abruptly interrupted. Plosive attack, then a mercenary charges with absurd speed, totally catching the blonde opponent off guard. The devastating impact of a kick violently throws a car door, but the deserter manages to dodge at the last second. Looking at the destruction, Daniel smiles in a disturbed way, praising the damage caused as if it were something beautiful. Observing the wrecked car frame in a perfectly symmetrical way, he calls it a beautiful masterpiece. Min lands safely and is left entirely confused, questioning why the heck the guy started talking about art out of nowhere. Pulling the heavy metal chains, the traitor reveals his sick habit of turning his victims into genuine sculptures. A storm of debris flies through the air as the blonde brags about creating unforgettable artwork after his fights. From above, the makeshift arena reveals the fury of the clash, where the adversary promises to take the brawl to another dimension. Crouched among the wreckage, the MC listens to the enemy blindly reminisce with passion about his last brutal job. With a totally psychopathic expression, the traitor confesses that he even used the target's family as part of the macabre decoration. Overcome with disgust, the agent realizes that the guy not only hurts innocent people, but also disrespects the defeated. Grabbing a piece of metal from the wrecked car, the boy concludes that the enemy has crossed all boundaries of madness. With a brutal motion, the MC attacks, swinging the heavy object, and calls the opponent an artistic lunatic. Showing impressive agility, Daniel dodges the strike with the utmost naturalness and lightness. Landing safely, the traitor smiles provocatively, taking the insult as if it were a massive compliment. Pulling the chains hard, the deserter claims it's normal for a layman not to understand the brilliant mind of a true genius. The direct clash happens when the mercenary attacks from above, being firmly blocked by the thick crossed chains. Hiding behind his own defense, the blonde mocks that having a flexible mindset is essential for creating beauty. Kang Min's eyes narrow as he listens to the opponent's sick analogies about body shapes and movements. Without backing down an inch, the traitor arrogantly decrees that he will detail exactly what the agent's final fate will be. In a swift charge, he narrates his macabre plan to mold the young man's body and use chemicals to bleach it all. The MC's feet slide quickly across the dirty floor, dodging the frantic blows constantly trying to hit him. The metal chains whip the air and wrap around a concrete pillar, illustrating the psychopath's twisted vision of freedom. Despite the graphic threat, Kang Min maintains a bored expression, processing all that annoying, meaningless nonsense. Looking around the abandoned park, he summarizes the enemy's master plan, asking if the idea is to turn him into a carousel horse. Walking with firm steps, the traitor finds the comparison of his great work to a simple fairground ride very funny. The blonde's fist tightens the heavy metal chains, preparing a new attack while promising to show the big difference. Kang Min's reflexes trigger when he suddenly notices brutal, killing intent radiating from his opponent. The air is violently cut as the chains whip the scenery, proving they aren't cheap equipment. The absurd impact of the random strikes ends up destroying the old wooden horses of the forgotten carousel. A dense cloud of dust rises from the ground due to the fury of the merciless blows delivered all over the makeshift arena. With his back turned, the traitor boasts that his works exist on an infinitely higher level than that scrap metal. However, the mercenary questions what the big deal is in using common plastic and metal to create something. The blonde turns his head, threatening the boy for talking nonsense, but gets a scare when he sees a huge statue flying his way. Moving the chains swiftly, Daniel shatters the horse throne in the air, stating that a true professional never backs down. Crouching after launching the heavy statue, the agent fires back that a good specialist never blames his tools. The adversary's arrogant smile falters for a brief second upon not grasping the meaning of that highly provocative phrase. In a surprise assault, a rain of sharp iron bars is launched straight at the deserter's back. Spinning his own weapon defensively, the blonde tries to deflect the flying rods, asking the meaning of that absurd attack. Regaining his confidence, the deserter mocks the useless attempt, claiming that such direct and obvious strikes are a huge cliché. Caught in the middle of the chains he himself was manipulating, the blonde deserter is left clueless about the situation for a moment. Shortly after, he regains his confidence and asks in a mocking tone what the opponent thought of his great masterpiece. In the center of the abandoned ride, Daniel trapped the agent in a massive metallic structure resembling a magic circle, preparing what he calls a meteor. Analyzing the scene with total coldness, Kang Min notes that the enemy turned the carousel's frame into an attack formation. The traitor pulls the chains in irritation, grumbling that listening to so much nonsense ends up staining his reputation as an artist and that now the show will truly begin. However, he feels a strong tug and realizes in frustration that the main iron structure is completely locked to the ground. Maintaining absolute calm, the MC looks at the sky and casually warns that the surprise is finally arriving. A colossal piece of the ride plummets straight from the clouds, making the blonde's eyes go wide as he notices the threat falling right on his head. Thrown to the floor, the deserter lets out a confused murmur as the huge shadow covers his entire body. With that, the heavy piece of metal hits the ground with a devastating impact, taking the target down in the blink of an eye. A massive cloud of dust and debris shoots into the air, marking the absurd force of that unexpected attack. The scenery around the structure is utterly destroyed, covered by rubble and a thick fog. Buried under the scrap, Daniel grumbles that the situation is extremely unpleasant and laments that the kid calls something so crude art. Forcing the rubble aside, the blonde warns that from that moment on, he will make a point of teaching the true meaning of the word. With abnormal strength, the traitor breaks free from the metal trap and declares he will show just how beautiful his technique really is. The tense silence is broken by a weird rubbery noise, catching the attention of the blonde recovering from the impact. Near the mercenary's feet, a little plastic dog squeaks with every step he takes through the destruction. Utterly bewildered by the bizarre scene, the traitor tries to process why the opponent is stepping on a kid's toy. Further away, the boy apologizes for the noise and asks what the enemy was saying before he got interrupted. Stepping out of the park's souvenir shop, Kang Min walks calmly, explaining that he couldn't hear because he was busy looking for the ideal tool. Staring at the young man's cocky attitude, the deserter declares in a serious tone that the clash will now be art against art. The mercenary merely presses the button on a plastic magic scepter, agreeing that in the artistic world, things should work like that. Even wearing a tiara on his head, the agent strikes a ridiculous pose with the glowing toy and jokes that the show needs to be quite extravagant to work. Feeling pure disgust at that clownery, Daniel ignores the act and declares they must restart the fight for real. Without dropping his guard, the MC shows off the scepter's blinding light and jokes that the genius of his tool makes his eyes burn. Excited about the unusual weapon, he reports that the one has purification spells and all sorts of absurd functions recorded in its system. The traitor lets out a mocking chuckle, muttering that the scene is so childish he can barely look straight at the opponent. Resuming his lethal stance, the blonde doubts the boy will use that in a real clash, recalling the old saying that a master doesn't choose his tools. Cracking his neck, the enemy warns that the youth got it all wrong, as top experts are extremely demanding and sensitive about their equipment. At that exact moment, a very fine red wire appears slicing through the air, while the deserter explains that true artists possess unique and deadly materials. Showing his hands full of sharp red strings, the traitor finishes his sentence saying these tools are perfectly tailor-made for him. The mercenary is surprised by the sudden charge and asks if the opponent really had to pull that out of his own clothes, noting that the material is far from common fabric. Already cornered by the enemy wires, the agent hears the blonde threaten that his weapon is as delicate as a paintbrush and as lethal as a carving knife. Dodging nimbly backward, Kang Min sees the wires glide through the air in a fast attack that destroys several stacked mascot heads in their path. Staring at the damage around him, the MC realizes the danger of the equipment that sliced through the tough material effortlessly. Keeping a safe distance from the threat, the boy concludes that those red wires truly possess an abnormal cutting power. Before the adversary can continue the devastating offensive, the agent raises his hand, asking for a brief time out very casually. Preparing a new attack with his hands glowing, Daniel ignores the request and swears he will slice the youth once and for all. The plastic toy lights up with various flashy colored lights, while the mercenary triggers the equipment's special mechanism. Using the Magic Wand's activation sound, he fires a massive blast of soap bubbles straight into the advancing enemy's face. Caught off guard by the bizarre attack, the traitor lets out a desperate scream complaining that the foam got into his eyes and burns. The agent pretends to be amazed by the toy's function, narrating mockingly as if he were purifying demons with holy magic. Rubbing his face frantically, the blonde curses the boy's dirty trick for throwing such gross chemicals onto his skin during a fight. When he finally manages to clear his vision, Daniel looks confused to see that his target has completely vanished from the battlefield. Looking hurriedly in all directions, the deserter grumbles in irritation, assuming the opponent ran away like a coward during that little distraction. Hidden right behind the opponent trying to rub his eyes, Kang Min observes the whole situation with a totally disinterested look. Resting the toy on his shoulder calmly, he acknowledges that the enemy's weapon handling skills are undeniably top tier. The agent's mind reviews the traitor's versatility, as he manages to switch between brute strikes using heavy chains and surgical cuts with thin wires effortlessly. Despite praising the complex and fluid technique, the mercenary concludes that the blonde fails at the basic fundamentals of combat by being unable to track a hidden enemy. Staring at the target's vulnerable back, the MC declares that his analysis of that assassin's true power is complete. Decided to finish the clash once and for all, he steps out of the shadows ready to deal the definitive blow to the enemy. However, the young man's expression changes in an instant upon realizing he made a grave error in his assessment. In the middle of the deserted square, the traitor holds a huge mascot statue fully tied up by his strings, mocking the bizarre figure he captured. The tip of the red wire reveals it has been perfectly hooked to the undercover agent's own arm this whole time. Caught in the ambush without noticing, Kang Min hears the enemy ask with irony if that hideous sculpture had always been there in the amusement park. Appearing suddenly right near the mercenary's ear, Daniel pulls the sharp strings and mocks that calling his own trap grotesque is really mean. Purely on survival instinct, the youth launches a fast strike using the magic toy to try and break the enemy's offensive. The force of the motion slams the plastic straight into the cutting wire, shattering the childish equipment into dozens of pieces flying through the air. Displaying a sadistic smile of victory, the blonde declares that the ugly statue was just a useless training dummy used to distract the main victim. With absolute control of the fight, the deserter boasts that everything was coldly calculated to turn the agent himself into his greatest and most beautiful masterpiece. Keeping the pressure of the fully stretched wires, Daniel warns that soon the enemy's body will feel the impact of his long-awaited final strike. But the deserter freezes in confusion as he hears the kid's toy voice echoing nearby, announcing the lethal magic that puts demons to sleep in a single attack. Looking down, he notices the sharp tip of the broken scepter strategically hooked into his own shirt, triggering the silencing attack sound. A violent bang rips through the air, causing severe damage, instantly breaking the attacker's advantage and absolute control. Away from danger and completely intact, the MC calmly adjusts his clothes, waiting for the final result of his hidden trap. Hit squarely by the brutal charge, the blonde screams in pure agony, feeling the devastating weight of the unforeseen wound that struck him. Extending a hand with authority, Kang Min questions how the villain still has the nerve to talk nonsense about art while facing his own ruin. The traitor lets out a muffled groan of pain, realizing the battle turned completely against him in a single moment of carelessness. Consumed by absolute despair, Daniel turns around and runs away, screaming through the middle of the empty park to try and save himself. The undercover agent remains standing in the same dark spot, just watching the pathetic escape without making the slightest effort to chase him. The disturbing silence returns to the abandoned place, broken only by the rusty, metallic creaking of the old rides swaying in the wind. The silent pursuit advances to the worn-out facade of an old arcade closed down in the darkest area of the amusement complex. The interior of the establishment is immersed in a thick darkness, filled with destroyed arcade machines covered in heavy dust. Walking calmly through the abandoned hall, the mercenary lets out a bored sigh evaluating the fugitive adversary's new temporary headset. Stepping on a floor lined with the enemy's dangerous red wires, the MC coldly and ironically praises how desperate the traitor's escape was. In the dark arcade setting, Kang Min coldly comments that facing one's own end is indeed something truly terrifying. Badly hurt and panting, the traitor tries to catch his breath, leaning against one of the establishment's old machines. With an empty look, the blonde darkly reflects on how the iron toys in the park rust and corrode slowly over time. The mercenary's calm footsteps echo as he completes the thought that defeat always pulls life closer little by little. Fallen to his knees on the dirty floor, Daniel concludes in his own mind that the string connecting life and its end can never be cut. No patience for metaphors, the MC asks what kind of nonsense the opponent started spouting out of nowhere. The agent's approach continues as he ironically asks if the guy traded his career as an artist for that of a philosopher. The deserter breaks into a disturbing smile and denies the joke, claiming that this epiphany is the purest inspiration. Facing his own ruin up close, the man confesses that this bizarre thought popped into his head all of a sudden. Bathed by a beam of light in the middle of the darkness, the traitor decides he won't just wait for defeat to swallow him up. The old abandoned arcade facade holds the silent confrontation under the city's dark sky. Suddenly, an incredibly loud metallic screech cuts the silence, announcing that something very heavy started to move in the structure. Pulling his wires with all his might, Daniel reflects on what would happen if he dragged his own ruin straight down on himself. The young agent stands calm and imposing before his kneeling, seemingly trapped adversary. Showing total indifference, Kang Min concludes that the loss of blood made the opponent delirious, spewing even more meaningless madness. The MC shrugs, telling the guy to think whatever he wants, but soon notices a strange movement around him. Clenched fists, the blonde yanks the red lines brutally, warning that no matter what the rookie says. Kang Min is caught off guard seeing the entire hall overtaken by a deadly web, hearing that there will be no escape inside there. The sharp wires wrap quickly around the agent's ankles, locking his movements immediately. Grinding his teeth, Daniel puts in a monumental effort to stretch the trap across the entire perimeter of the abandoned building. The tension on the ropes hits the limit, while the deserter screams, this will be his definitive work. Wrapped in the very lines that tear his body, the traitor announces that this is his greatest masterpiece of all. In a mix of madness, he stares at the tied-up opponent and asks with a smile if the kid can hear the sound. Outside, the gigantic rusted metal structure gives way under the pressure of the wires and begins to collapse violently. Completely immobilized by the cutting lines, the mercenary tries to break free and finds the absurd resistance of such thin material strange. Analyzing the inescapable web, the boy understands that the trap perfectly represents the futile struggle of two enemies trying to destroy each other. The agent's gaze focuses on the structure of that attack, realizing the futility of trying to escape using only brute force. A massive piece of steel rips the arcade ceiling, crashing down hard, while the enemy admires the terrifying beauty of the destruction. Looking up, Kang Min watches in perplexity the gigantic shadow that is about to crush everything around them. Accepting the imminent impact, Daniel opens his arms in the middle of the hall, proudly revealing the grand title of that fatal sculpture. Naming his macabre creation the Embrace of Defeat, the blonde waits for the impact with a smile of pure satisfaction. Without thinking twice, Kang Min steps forward and grabs the opponent in a tight hug, preventing any chance of escape. The colossal metal structure plummets, crushing the two combatants under a mountain of rubble and dense dust. The orange late afternoon sky illuminates the silent landscape after the catastrophic end of that brutal clash. The old arcade has been completely reduced to ruins, leaving only debris scattered across the forgotten park. Arriving at the battle site, a person observes the total destruction and lets out a confused murmur at what was left of the area. The faction leader, Lee San, shows a surprised face upon confirming that there definitely used to be a whole building in that spot. Walking through the giant rubble, the man notes that the establishment was turned to dust in the blink of an eye. The evening light reflects off the twisted iron, marking the chaotic scene of the survival battle. With a distant look, the suit comments on how bizarre it is for someone to choose mutual destruction in a fight for their own life. The main target mocks the situation with a smile, concluding that art is indeed something impossible to understand. Appearing calmly behind the leader's back, Kang Min agrees with the statement and gives the man a good scare. With his lighter in hand, the mercenary offers the enemy a sweet, joking that fructose is very bad for your health. Standing amidst the destruction, the undercover agent points out that he followed exactly the bizarre instructions he received earlier. Regaining his composure, Lee San smiles satisfied and admits that the kid really passed the challenge flawlessly. The MC extends the silver spoon demanding the leader accept the proof, guaranteeing he will join the faction right after. The image of an old candy stall in the abandoned park appears in the middle of the dark scenery. A rustic sign with a drawing of silverware decorates the facade of the old dessert kiosk. Analyzing the huge decorative plate on the site, the suit comments in an ironic tone that giant pudding actually looks very delicious, since the colossal cup reveals the traitor's body utterly destroyed and tied up in his own web. Defeated and barely conscious, Daniel only murmurs disconnected words about his great final work. Clapping his hands excitedly at the result, Lee San breaks into a huge smile and announces that the boy passed the test. The leader extends his hand to seal the deal, promising that the syndicate will guarantee total safety for the new member from now on. An extremely sinister smile takes over the main target's face as he dictates the terms of that dangerous alliance. As payment for the protection, the man demands that the agent eliminate all of the faction's enemies without any hesitation. Kang Min's eyes narrow, processing the coward's order from the guy who thinks he has absolute control of the situation. Displaying relentless confidence, the mercenary agrees to the request, stating he'll take out anyone, no matter who it is. A few days pass, bringing an atmosphere of apparent normalcy to the city streets illuminated by the sunset. Walking up the stairs of his building, Kang Min looks at his phone in frustration, hoping the faction hasn't canceled the recruitment. The agent punches in his apartment door code with boredom, deciding he'll just spend the day watching short videos on the internet. As soon as he opens his front door, the MC freezes in place, sensing that the vibe in the room is very different from usual. The living room remains immersed in total darkness, hiding any potential threat in the corners of the traditional furniture. In the dim light, the young man's killer instinct triggers, confirming the presence of an intruder in the place. The screen of the encrypted laptop lights up the room, while a surprised voice on the other end of the line questions the leader's taste for pudding. Sitting comfortably with the dessert, the agent tells his boss that he also became a child and is enjoying the sweet. Staring at the investigation board, the mercenary points out that the target's attitude completely deviates from the expected profile, raising doubts about his true identity. The memory of the man clapping like a child makes him question if that silly guy is really the boss of a lethal syndicate. Looking at the files on the computer, the kid highlights that the suit didn't exude a dangerous scent, nor did he have the intimidating aura of a great leader. However, a small detail catches the undercover agent's attention, and he narrows his eyes analyzing the encounter. The memory of the sinister smile in the car comes back strong, making the boy admit that the guy emitted an extremely peculiar and bizarre vibe. On the other end of the line, the casino boss agrees that merely relying on instinct isn't enough to act. Maintaining her ruthless posture, the blonde demands that the agent get physical, irrefutable proof to confirm that this is the real Lee San. The landscape of the destroyed park pops into the kid's mind, and he calmly states that the enemy himself handed that proof right into his hands. The exact moment the mercenary offered the silver spoon for the target to taste the dessert resurfaces, confirming the genius plan. Displaying a smile of pure victory, Kang Min holds up a plastic bag with the used cutlery and says he brought the enemy's DNA back in total safety. Staring at the spoon in the dark, Kang Min hears the boss comment via laptop that the faction leader was way too careless. The blonde suggests the target was negligent or simply had no reason to act with such caution. Confident in the shadows, the agent agrees that any analysis of that material would be useless without having what he asked for earlier, checking on the status of that favor. Far away, the casino leader walks down a hallway and confirms that most of the procedures are already done. Standing in front of a door bearing the organization's emblem, she reveals that now all they need is approval from the high echelon. The sound of a lock clicking open echoes while the woman assures him clearance will happen soon. With a completely serious look, the boss promises the package will be shipped to him in Korea the moment authorization comes through. With that, the scene cuts to the port docks lit by the calm of the early hours. Two big shots meet at the isolated pier, and the man asks if his partner brought the goods properly. Relieved by the confirmation, the old man explains that they raced against time to match the schedule of the global summit taking place in the country in 2 days. A young man opens the metal briefcase, impressed by their ability to produce such equipment in such a short time frame. The young man excitedly claims that with this, they'll be able to slip past the event's maximum security and defeat all the presidents. However, the great lethal weapon in the briefcase is revealed to be a bizarre raw octopus skewer they plan to serve at the official banquet. In reality, all of this was just a useless video playing on Kang Min's phone screen as he types the word octopus to try to score a food discount coupon. Keeps swiping his screen non-stop, scrolling past posts from famous actors and videos of teenage idols dancing. A warning pops up on the screen alerting him to 13 hours of continuous use, making the kid realize in surprise why his fingers were already numb. Lying flat on his back on the living room floor, he sighs in frustration, concluding that he spent yet another entire day just wasting oxygen. Sitting up on the wooden floor, the MC grumbles irritably that the folks from the criminal faction still haven't made any contact with him. The sun begins to set, painting the neighborhood's residential streets with an orange late afternoon hue. Suddenly, the phone beeps, letting him know that his big order of raw octopus skewers has just been delivered. Walking down the sidewalks dressed in his school uniform, the youth jokes, asking if he got fired from the faction before he even started working. The undercover agent's calm footsteps echo through the quiet, traditional path of that secluded neighborhood. To his frustration, he confesses he'd actually like to take the initiative, but the black card he received doesn't have any contact info on it. Already at his front door, the mercenary picks up the food bag from the floor, complaining about how long it's taking those criminals to call him in for a job. Upon lifting the plastic package, the boy finds the order oddly light and wonders if he forgot to add his bizarre, shaved ice dessert. Trying to understand the error, he pulls out the receipt to check exactly what item he had selected on the app. However, the receipt reveals a bizarre string of system errors and weird codes printed in place of the food items. With the paper in hand, the kid wonders if the restaurant's receipt printer simply broke down. The agent's gaze turns sharp and calculating, concluding that the error was actually forged on purpose to look like a common glitch. The weird numbers scattered across the paper reveal themselves to be a hidden code, where specific characters were converted into hexadecimal format. Holding the mysterious paper in the hallway, Kang Min immediately understands that the food order was just a cover. That sequence of alphanumeric errors is, in fact, a secret message sent directly by the members of the criminal faction. Annoyed by the system, the youth grumbles that this method is way too much work, deducing the group acts this way out of pure fear of being tracked. Standing in the dim light, the agent tries to mentally decipher the first part of the code by translating the corresponding letters. Staring at his door's electronic lock, he concludes he'll need to use a converter to manage translating the rest of that giant message. The mercenary grips the handle firmly and opens his apartment door while maintaining a completely relaxed posture. However, the kid's eyes dart quickly around the room, noticing that something is very wrong right at the entrance of his home. The digital door lock features a hidden security mechanism set up by the MC himself beforehand. Because of this, a thin layer of magnetic powder had been applied to the surface, causing the substance to stick to any access card that touched it. Furthermore, if a person tried to punch in the number code, their fingerprints would be perfectly visible on the glowing panel. With this double invisible security system, it was impossible for anyone to get through that door unnoticed. The keypad in the dark proves that traces of a sneaky break-in were left behind at the scene. Outside, the late afternoon sun keeps shining, ignoring the deadly tension that has just settled inside that building. Kang Min's relaxed expression vanishes, giving way to a threatening look that confirms an intruder is hiding in his home. Observing the subtle marks on the floor, the young man deduces that a common thief would never have the skills to use such a careful break-in method. Sliding a hand under his uniform jacket, the agent draws a sharp blade, noting the extreme attempt to leave no tracks at the scene. With the tool close to his body, the MC notes that this level of care is undoubtedly the mark of a true professional. The living room remains bathed in total darkness, creating the perfect environment for anyone to camouflage themselves among the dark furniture. Acting like a normal kid, the young man walks in, complaining out loud about the Korean education system, while mentally scanning where the intruder is hiding. Lifting the bag of food, the mercenary pretends to be eager to devour the skewer and relieve his study stress. The kitchen area is inspected quietly and methodically under the faint light from the windows. To avoid ruining his own act, the agent keeps a neutral face while his instincts sweep every corner of the place. The empty counter proves that there is no one waiting to attack in that specific room of the house. Setting the package on the table, he praises the smell of the food, saying he's going to change clothes real quick, concluding that the living room and kitchen are totally clear. The kid's focus shifts to the old wooden doors guarding the other smaller rooms in the apartment. Turning the knobs carefully, he quickly checks the laundry room and bathroom, confirming there's no danger there. Kang Min's dark gaze narrows as he realizes his search options are almost at an end. Immediately after, the bedroom door is opened, revealing the space where the bed and wardrobe sit quietly in the middle of the dark. The mercenary's slow footsteps echo across the hardwood floor as he walks toward the empty room. Keeping up his student act, the youth murmurs, asking himself where his tablet went, using that as an excuse to walk around the house. Pacing the bedroom, the agent continues his theater, complaining that he can't eat without watching internet videos. The boy's attention falls on the closed doors of the old wooden wardrobe at the back of the room. In a swift move, he throws the closet open, ready for any surprise attack that might come from inside. The shelves and hangers reveal that the hiding spot is completely empty and clear of hidden threats. Standing in the middle of the smaller room, Kang Min concludes in frustration that checking all the spaces yielded zero results. With a heavy expression, the MC reflects that there are no signs of an escape to the basement, wondering where the heck the intruder managed to hole up. Suddenly, the loud sound of running water interrupts the silence, making the mercenary's eye widen on the spot. Staring at the bathroom door, the kid realizes the faucet was turned on purposefully to reveal the exact position of the enemy. The youth sighs, annoyed by the situation, instantly identifying that the opponent is using a fixed-angle ambush tactic. In practice, this method basically consists of luring the opponent into a closed room using some auditory or visual stimulus. The plan is to hide in the blind spot created by the door's opening direction, waiting for the precise moment to launch an attack at the entering target's back. Standing right in front of the bathroom, the undercover agent recognizes the trick's effectiveness, but mentally notes there is a simple countermeasure for it. Gripping the knob tightly, the MC prepares to completely turn the tables on the intruder. Instead of walking in normally, Kang Min breaks the frame by swinging the heavy wooden door open in the opposite direction with brute force. Using the opening created by the smashed door, the mercenary charges in, delivering a swift strike with his blade against the destabilized enemy. Executing his strategy perfectly, the mercenary plans to strike the hidden enemy's chest. Right after, the mental tactic indicates that the next attack should aim for the adversary's lower body. With the knife in hand, Kang Min storms the bathroom ready for the clash, but ends up noticing something quite unusual. In an unforgivable slip, the agent ends up stepping hard on a slippery bar of soap tossed right in the middle of the wet floor. The slip sends the kid flying into the air, making the mercenary lament that getting defeated by a bath product is going too far. The sudden impact against the floor echoes loudly, shattering the closed room's silence. Totally disoriented by the fall, the boy lies flat on his back on the floor in a pretty pathetic way. Staring up at the ceiling upside down, the MC just lets out a confused murmur trying to understand the ridiculous situation. To his huge surprise, a blonde woman taking a shower stares down at him from above and calmly asks why he is there. Far away from that mess, in an elegant office lit by an antique chandelier, the casino boss deduces that the young man's partner must have already arrived in Korea. Looking up at the luxurious lighting, the blonde reflects that at this stage in the game, the agent duo must have already met up. Sitting at her desk, the employee with her hair tied up gives thanks for her superior's swift approval of the document. Suddenly, the ring of a vintage phone interrupts the chat, calling for the general manager urgently. Answering the call, the boss hears the mysterious contact mention the code names Ace of Spades and Three of Hearts together. The voice on the line points out that this is an unprecedented mission involving an unknown target, which required sending 2 elite members. Over the line, the person asks if the manager really believes this complex job will succeed. Pondering for a brief moment, the organization's leader murmurs quite thoughtfully. The contact finishes the sentence evaluating the situation solely by the lethal and combined skills of the 2 dispatched agents. With extreme confidence in her subordinates, the blonde assures that the chance of victory is 99%. As the scene cuts back to the dark streets of Korea, the superior highlights that the remaining 1% is the big variable. The success of that dangerous hunt will depend entirely on how the duo's teamwork pans out. Fallen under the shower, Kang Min explains himself, saying he thought the girl was a dangerous intruder hiding in the place. Getting his brain working again, the young man casually remembers that he was the one who requested backup from the casino the day before. Taking water straight to the face, the mercenary greets his colleague, stating it's been a long time since they last met. Naked in front of the boy, the partner listens to the kid call her by her famous code name, Three of Hearts. Staring at the fallen agent, the woman comments in a provocative tone about the fact that he destroyed the entire door just to get into the shower. With a laid-back attitude, the colleague asks if the mercenary had been holding back this whole time away from her. The large golden emblem of the Bathala Casino Hotel appears shining in the dark to represent the group's monstrous power. Corporation is a secret contract organization that operates using playing cards, made up of exactly 53 elite members. The Ace of Spades presence on the black card indicates that the vast majority of members act directly as hunters on the battlefield. However, amidst this hierarchy shown on the betting table, there are a few important exceptions to the rule. The stamped card confirms that certain members act exclusively as support agents to provide backup during operations. In a luxurious scene from the past, the facade of an imposing building showed the difficulty of the jobs carried out by the lethal group. Using a fake government badge, the MC was perfectly disguised as a secretary to infiltrate the heavily guarded place. Sitting on a dark staircase, a major corporation's founder was the mission's target and replied harshly to the hunter. Hidden in the frame of Kang Min's glasses, a micro camera silently activated, recording the entire surroundings without raising suspicion. The view of the veteran cornered in the stairwell was broadcast live straight to the faction's hidden operations base. Sitting in the dark in front of several monitors, the support agent tracked the hunter's every move with precision. Focused on the fine details of the badge, 3 of Heart's specialty involved forgery, virtual disguises, and hacking security systems. Walking next to the target through the large hall, the young man made small talk, praising how the place remained preserved and unchanged. The mercenary absent-mindedly pointed to the beautiful cathedral visible beyond the forest through the building's massive glass windows. Typing frantically on her illuminated keyboard, the girl warned over the comms that the target was walking straight into the trap. Applying optical camouflage and projections based on eye tracking, the agent created a fake environment around the man. The perfect setting to finish the job was projected, while the woman confirmed that the video output was working flawlessly. Fooled by the perfect illusion, the target noticed something strange on the wall right at the moment of the clash, proving that the partner operated without leaving a trace. Calmly blowing a bubblegum bubble, she merely reported a visual glitch, showing off the title of the best support in the entire organization. The scene returns to the present, focusing on the tidy kitchen of the MC's modest apartment in the Korean capital. Putting a finger to her lips, the partner complains that the boy told her to wash up and get out of the bathroom as fast as possible. Wearing very loose casual clothes, the young woman asks, quite annoyed, if that was why he kept rushing her shower. Totally impatient with the complaints, Kang Min tells the woman to shut up and open wide to receive her treat. The mercenary holds out a raw octopus skewer covered in syrup, but the girl backs away in disgust, threatening to hit him if he doesn't that gross slop away. Sitting at the counter, the duo trades jabs, reminiscing about how the agent's culinary tastes and moral compass have remained bizarre since training. Leaning on the kitchen stool, the woman asks why he had to break down the door and barge into the bathroom without asking permission first. The guy crosses his arms and explains that hanging around outside is a huge risk, prompting his colleague to ask if something dangerous happened. Staring at her own leg with fake drama, the support agent pauses before revealing her grand and terrible daily dilemma. Resting her chin on her hand, the blonde grumbles that the real problem is the unbearable amount of guys trying to get her number on the street. The MC displays a look of pure boredom, agreeing that her life must be so tough having to reject so many people. The kitchen window shows the quiet night outside, lighting up the mercenary's small apartment. Changing the subject, the woman holds a boiled egg and happily comments that her partner managed to get his hands on something extremely valuable. Thanks to communication with the casino's general manager, the agent already knew her colleague had secured the enemy leader's DNA sample. Keeping his serious posture, the young man confirms the information and drops the responsibility of the genetic analysis straight into his partner's hands. However, looking at the eggshell, Kang Min reminds her that just having a piece of genetic material isn't enough to prove an identity. Holding 2 spoons like kids' maracas, the woman explains that the job requires cross-referencing the collected material with the supposed real owner's DNA. Acting super laid back, the agent announces that until he brings in the second sample for lab comparison, she will be completely free of any work. Stretching lazily, the girl plans to use this free time to go shopping as if she were on vacation in the metropolis. Annoyed by his partner's sudden time off, the mercenary waves the mysterious paper in the air, demanding to know who gave permission for all that resting. Holding the fake receipt, the MC throws it in her face that the casino would never give a silly task to an elite support agent operating in the country. The document displays the long string of jumbled codes, confirming that a new order from the local syndicate just landed right in their laps. The boy's eyes show seriousness as he confesses he almost didn't believe his own eyes as soon as he finished decoding the entire message. The scene cuts to a beautiful, isolated chapel lit by colorful stained glass in the dead of the dark night. The young hunter reveals that the new target assigned by the enemy organization appears to be a massive and powerful big shot in the underworld. The veteran with a cigar in his mouth bravely defends against the strike of a sharp sword, coldly asking if the enemy is going to keep this up. Standing firmly in the middle of the silent church, the suited man stares down his opponent and calls him an inexperienced killer. In a wildly aggressive leap, crossing their blades, the furious youth calls the old man a washed-up loser for acting so arrogant at a time like this. A relentless strike slashes through the chapel air, proving that the mercenary duo's new challenge is already facing danger head-on. Blocking the brutal attack with his sword, the veteran guarantees that the adversary doesn't know his own place. Staring at the opponent, the older man finishes his thought, finding it an honor to be called outdated in this dangerous line of work. In the middle of the chapel, lit by stained glass, the reputation of being old becomes the greatest proof of survival in that underworld. The absurd impact of the charge shatters the colored glass windows, scattering shards all over the church. Several pieces of glass hit the floor, reflecting the burden of taking on extreme jobs focused on risking one's own life. Kneeling after the blow, the young man concludes that surviving so many attacks proves the veteran's enormous experience. Raising his sharp blade, the old man demands the ignorant kid's understanding before finishing the fight. The action video is paused on the screen, revealing the name Kim Yong-soo in a large, glowing marquee. The intense scene was just a movie recording, proving the talent of that man focused on his acting career. Recognized nationwide, the star poses for a photo with underprivileged children, boasting a reputation for having a generous character. The agency's luxurious building confirms the veteran's success in managing his own career while helping young talents. Analyzing the target's profile on the monitor, the support agent finds the situation weird, considering this a very rare case. Sitting beside her, Kang Min deduces that the job doesn't look like the work of an angry fan, finding it bizarre for an actor to become a target. Frustrated looking at the screen, the mercenary complains about the headache caused by famous targets surrounded by bodyguards and paparazzi. Scrolling the mouse, the kid ignores the issue of heavy investigations triggered by the disappearance of a major celebrity. Stretching out in his chair, Kang Min celebrates in relief at the ease of a job focused solely on retrieval. The monitor displays the decoded cipher, proving that the real objective is far from defeating anyone, instead demanding the recovery of an item. Relaxed at the base, the mercenary points out the lack of proper equipment as the only problem for completing the mission. The young support woman turns her head, completely confused, not really understanding her coworker's silly concern. Calm as can be, she tells him to relax, assuring him she has already prepped almost every detail for the break-in. The base's environment reveals several three-dimensional printers operating quietly in the back of the dark room. Kang Min looks up, bewildered by his partner's modest comment, when faced with all that colossal setup. The sheer size of the machinery set up in the basement makes the agent joke about his colleague's definition of basic equipment. Walking over to the desks, the girl proudly lists the precision industrial machines alongside the state-of-the-art computers. Impressed by the overkill, the youth questions the need for so much tech just to break into a simple talent agency. The specialist justifies the arsenal, reminding him of the bulletproof security setups created to keep out crazy fans and prevent leaks. Showing the building's floor plan, she emphasizes that it's impossible to access the target's personal office without his authorization. The computer screen details the server room layout, proving that the director himself is required to open the security door. Deep in thought, the MC concludes they need to forge a cleaning staff identity to enter the place without raising suspicion. Fully trusting his partner's talent, he compares crafting a perfect disguise to the ease of ordering food on an app. The support agent sighs in indignation, totally rejecting the responsibility of taking on such an amateur request. Remembering the boss's orders, she grumbles about her official job being strictly to handle the faction leader's identity. Using a cynical tone, Kang Min taunts his colleague, assuring her that this extra favor wasn't on the mission's original menu. The young woman's eyes turn sharp and interested, hearing the cocky mercenary's tempting proposal. Holding his no-limit credit card, the agent offers an entire afternoon of luxury shopping as a thank you to bribe the specialist. Won over by the amazing deal, the girl drools a bit, agreeing to do the extra work without a second thought. The scene cuts to the bustling city streets, illuminated by building lights in the dead of night. Adjusting his earpiece, the MC checks the signal, receiving his partner's confirmation that the audio is crystal clear. Hidden by his dark hood, the kid stares at the agency building, paying attention to the tactical briefing coming through the radio. Standing in front of the headquarters, he listens to the requirement of passing through 3 strict checkpoints just to access the president's office. The building's front desk requires ID and a signature in the visitor log, trying to block anyone not on the employee roster. After passing the guards, security demands an exclusive access card issued only after a full background check. To top off the system, the private elevator requires direct, personal clearance from the company director himself. Hearing all these barriers, the youth mocks the impenetrable security, reminding her he's just going to walk in showing his own face. Without the hood covering his head, Kang Min agrees with his partner that no one would dare stop such an important figure in there. The agent's flawless disguise kicks into action, mimicking someone rushing back to work after an exhausting walk. The mask created by his partner perfectly copies the tired, mature face of the agency's president himself. Amazed by the camouflage's quality, Kang Min confesses he wishes he was wearing a simple janitor's face instead of the boss's. Walking toward the elevator, the fake veteran prefers acting like the leader rather than playing a cleaning guy. Waiting for the final biometric scan, the disguised mercenary lets out a confused murmur, noticing a glitch in the system. The ceiling light flickers weirdly, creating a suspicious vibe about the elevator's strange behavior. The heavy metal doors slowly open, revealing that the maximum security has been completely deactivated for no apparent reason. Keeping his cool, the MC peeks inside the dark president's room, trying to figure out the protocol failure. The intruder's silent footsteps echo across the luxury floor, advancing through the room drowned in darkness. Analyzing the heavy mood of the empty room, the mercenary feels things spinning out of control rapidly. The kid's sharp instinct flares, noticing a metallic smell and a gloomy atmosphere taking over the office. Totally shocked by the scene lit by the window, the agent comes across a disturbing sight right in the middle of the room. The real actor lies lifeless on the floor, bearing a deep, fatal wound on his neck. Facing the brutal damage on the target, Kang-min notices the cut's precision, proving the involvement of an experienced criminal. The silent office holds the mystery of that sudden attack, raising suspicions about which dangerous professional got there first. An old fountain pen rolls across the floor, hinting at the clear answer to that unexpected assault. With a dark look on his face, the MC stares into the shadows, demanding the mysterious killer's identity straightforwardly. Far away, the imposing facade of the art museum awaits the start of a massive charity event in the capital. The poster at the entrance announces the charity auction, highlighting the illustrious presence of the acclaimed veteran actor. The museum hall fills, with wealthy guests applauding the speech, thanking everyone for being there at that special moment. On stage, the mission's target wears an elegant suit, promising to donate the proceeds from his rare pieces to sick children. The night's first attraction showcases a beautiful golden music box made in Switzerland in the 19th century. The actor fondly recalls buying this valuable gem during an exhausting work trip overseas. His memory focuses on his castmate forcing the veteran to walk around the city even though he was completely exhausted. Excited by the memory, the host admits that unusual stroll was a stroke of pure luck in his life. The little box shines brightly under the lights, connecting the old European antique shop to the great treasure he found. The audience admires the luxurious details of the 18-karat gold-plated piece, highlighting the beauty of the precious stones. Suddenly, heavy footsteps break the formality, marching uninvited down the aisle of the ongoing auction. A hand covered by a dark glove pulls the pin on a gas grenade, threatening the attendees of the charity event. Wearing a scary oxygen mask, the intruder demands his own share of the charity with a tone full of irony. Holding the gas grenade, the masked intruder spreads smoke throughout the entire event hall. Soon, the news reports that a sudden robbery took place during actor Kim Young-soo's charity auction. The broadcast details that the criminals used smoke bombs and went straight for the collector's items. As a result, the event was immediately halted, and the unsold pieces ended up being safely stored away. The news also confirms that the remaining collection was moved to the veteran's private vault, and fortunately, no one was hurt. Returning to the present in the dark agency office, the heavy mood takes over the empty room. Kang-min carefully observes the severe wound on the actor's neck, confirming the target had already been taken out. Deep in thought before the scene, the disguised mercenary analyzes every tiny detail of what happened there. He notes that the massive blood loss doesn't look like the work of a simple amateur criminal. Given the cut's precision, the kid wonders if the job was pulled off by some professional agent. At that moment, an old fountain pen lying on the floor catches the MC's eye in the middle of the gloom. The agent quickly deduces that this evidence confirms all his suspicions about the case. Slowly turning his head, Kang-min asks the mysterious killer if he doesn't agree with this theory. With the pen in his hands, the fake veteran warns that if the guy intends to threaten him like that, the masked intruder charges, launching a swift attack from behind, but the MC blocks the impact and demands the enemy say at least something. Keeping calm, the agent points out that if the intention was really to finish him off, the strike should have been direct. The invader keeps swinging his blade wildly, slicing through the office air. A wide and violent slash is thrown at the MC, who steps back to avoid getting hit. Evaluating the agile movements, Kang-min realizes the adversary definitely received professional training. Despite this, the mercenary notes the guy is just swinging the weapon blindly, causing the enemy to stumble slightly. The intruder's eye widens as he notices the imminent threat approaching his face. Seizing the opening, the agent delivers a fast strike, using the tip of the fountain pen to counterattack. The clash between the two fighters echoes through the silent, dark agency room. Holding the pen cap in his mouth, the kid jokes that after using the item, you should always cap it properly. He complains that the darkness is messing with his vision and asks if all this overkill was really necessary for the situation. Dodging another flurry of blows, the MC confesses he couldn't care less about the actor's demise. The silent enemy keeps pushing forward, while the agent states that his only real curiosity is actually something else. With a precise move, Kang Min blocks the strike and demands to know the intruder's true motive for taking down the veteran. The impact pushes the masked assassin back, and the kid comments that the news showed something quite interesting. The adversary tries another frontal attack, while the mercenary finishes saying that a lot of people are after the victim's private collection. Silence returns to the office, revealing only a piece of torn, dark fabric lying on the floor. Holding the enemy's mask, the fake veteran concludes that the guy is also part of this interested group, but is soon caught off guard. Looking around frantically, the boy can't understand how the opponent vanished so fast. In that instant, the sound of shattering glass reveals the intruder jumping straight out the window to escape. The only thing left behind was a bizarre fake silicone belly abandoned in the corner of the room. Thrown into the middle of that mess, the agent sighs, noting that the guy must be the type who avoids conversation at all costs. Feeling the cold breeze coming through the broken window, he figures the killer preferred to risk his own life jumping from there, just to avoid facing him. A quick flashback shows the panting intruder taking off the mask, admitting the mercenary's moves were hard to track. The young killer unzips his jacket, grumbling that if he had known the danger level he'd be facing. Removing the heavy disguise, the guy confesses he would have taken off that silicone suit weighing over 100 pounds before starting the fight. The scene changes abruptly to a beautiful sunny blue sky, marking the start of a new day in the city. The brightly lit interior of a luxury designer store shows that the moment of tension has given way to shopping. Stepping out of the fitting room in a green outfit, his partner complains that the clothes have no pockets and decides to reject the piece. Trying on another very casual combo, the agent rejects the style, claiming the outfit has way too many pockets for her taste. Now wearing an elegant white dress, she gets annoyed at the boy's critiques when he asks if she's going to an awards show, concluding he hated them all. Sitting on the couch, Kang Min jokes he's evaluating the looks with the heart of an overprotective father, while the woman tells the employee to bring out the whole store. Watching the saleswoman run around desperately, the agent ironically says the Employee of the Month award is definitely going to her. Ruining the relaxed vibe, the MC asks if his partner managed to recover the camera footage from last night. The woman complains about the subject change and explains that the killer physically destroyed both the main device and the local backup. She adds that since the system didn't have cloud storage or an external server, recovering the data became impossible. The mercenary gets a serious, focused look, noting that the adversary is extremely meticulous about covering his tracks. The employee shows up carrying a jam-packed clothing rack, and the agent brags about snatching even the clothes other customers had already paid for. Hyped up by the shopping marathon, the partner orders them to bring out even more items, promising to buy absolutely everything. Ignoring the chaos in the store, the youth focuses on his thoughts, trying to tie up the loose ends of that story. The police tape from the auction pops back into his head, closely resembling the attack that happened at the museum days ago. His phone screen displays more news of the tragedy, and the kid deduces that the man took down the actor probably wanted the collection too. Fixing her hair, the support specialist states they need to ID the criminal to figure out where the stolen goods ended up. Absolute calm, Kang Min cuts her thought off, letting her know he already knows exactly who the guy is. Completely confused, his colleague asks how he managed that if the building's cameras were totally destroyed. The mercenary flashes a small smile and reveals he had hidden a micro camera in his disguise's jacket zipper, leaving his partner in shock. The tiny secret mechanism in the jacket zipper slides open silently, revealing the hidden lens that recorded the entire fight. The woman grumbles that he should have mentioned that before she made the clerk bring out even the employee uniforms. Watching the saleswoman work, the partner asks if the agent wants to see the guy's face, getting a yes in return. Raising his hand suddenly, the young man points his finger straight in the direction where the store clerk is standing. The boy announces that the killer is exactly the person standing right there, thoroughly scaring the confused employee. Very politely, the MC asks the frightened saleswoman to take a small step to the side. Right behind her, a large advertising poster shows the face of famous actor Baek Ji-hoon doing a brand campaign. The image of the guy wielding the fountain pen in the dark proves that the young star was the real intruder that night. The agent's mind connects the absurd dots of the mission, recalling the faction's coded message using raw octopus just to send a meaningless warning. Miles away from his theories, the partner continues her consumerist delusion, announcing she's going to clear out the inventory of the store's other branches, too. Kang Min reflects that the opponent's moves were incredibly professional for a mere actor, feeling intrigued by the connection between the two stars. Watching his colleague's satisfied smile, he silently concludes that this bizarre twist actually turned out to be very beneficial for the mission. The kid remembers that the valuable collection was kept in a vault, jointly owned by the victim and the killer. Resting his chin in his hands, the mercenary figures out that the younger actor is the only person alive who knows the exact location of that vault. The support agent casually mentions that the victim considered the young star a true son, making it clear their relationship was extremely close. The scene cuts to a wake hall filled with funeral wreaths, where someone in the corridors comments that the young star took on the role of chief mourner. The altar displays a photo of veteran Kim Yong-soo, marking the tragic end of the man considered a huge pillar of the entertainment industry. The image of the deceased rests silently amidst the incense smoke, reinforcing the mourning vibe that dominates the funeral home. With his back to the entrance, Baek Ji-hoon stands before the altar wearing the traditional yellow mourning armband. Watching the scene from afar, two men in suits start whispering about the young actor's posture during this delicate time. The guys find it really weird that he isn't showing any emotion, considering the veteran practically raised him like a son. Whispering to each other, they even wonder if the old rumors about the two stars not getting along were actually true. The gossiping duo grumbles that the kid is just standing there like a statue, without letting out a single sigh of sadness for the loss. However, they get a good scare when a lone tear rolls down the young star's face, completely breaking his cold facade. Hoon's mind dives into a dark memory from the past, where a terrified man begged for mercy in the middle of the woods. Thrown on the ground and completely tied up, a reporter cried desperately, swearing he'd live quietly like a dead mouse if spared. Shaking with terror under the moonlight, the prisoner pleaded, promising that from that day on he would only do good things for them. Surprised by the cowardly attitude, the veteran actor stared at the prisoner, calling attention to the severity of the situation. With a ruthless tone, Yong-soo warned that this wouldn't be enough, since the proof of money laundering at the charity auction was in that journalist's hands. The reporter kept begging on the dirt floor, swearing he would erase all the evidence himself and that the old man didn't need to take any extreme measures. Showing zero pity, the veteran coldly revealed he had already hired someone to take care of that little problem, while the reporter took a fatal blow. The journalist's lifeless body collapsed in the dark forest, sealing the tragic end of someone who tried to cross the corrupt scheme. Holding the dirty blade, Jae-hoon stared at the scene with total coldness, revealing himself as the mercenary hired by the older actor. The night sky witnessed the cruelty hidden behind that public figure, so praised for his fake charities. Making a frame with his fingers like a movie director, Yong-soo smiled satisfied and announced that the young man had passed the audition. The veteran praised the kid's posture, stating that his cold mask was perfect and extremely realistic, leaving the mercenary confused about where the conversation was heading. Displaying a greedy smile, the old man complained that today's actors lacked real experience, but that the boy's lethal talent would work perfectly for the screen. Jae-hoon listened in silence, while the big shot claimed he already had a theme script ready, catching his attention with excitement. Holding out a fancy business card from his talent agency, Yong-soo made the big pitch, asking if the killer had ever thought about acting. The flashback ends, and the young star covers his face with his hand, looking like he's overcome by uncontrollable grief. Hiding behind his fingers, he keeps up the deep mourning act while the suits around him by his grand performance. Worried about the situation, a crew member approaches, offering to switch up the shooting schedule if the grief is too heavy to handle. Sitting in the rest van, the actor politely declines the offer, keeping his head down so as not to break his devastated character. Away from the crew's eyes, Jae-hoon cracks a disturbing smile and confesses his emotions are absolutely perfect for filming right now. The scene cuts to an imposing traditional building, marking the start of shooting for scene 10 of that famous historical drama. The camera focuses on the palace courtyard, and the director's voice echoes across the set calling action for the actors. Wearing royal attire, Jae-hoon acts kneeling on the stone floor, begging with his head bowed for his majesty to hear his humble subjects' plea. With a face full of fake pain, the young star continues his dramatic line, saying the pitiful people are suffering in agony. Staring at the king's back, he asks the monarchs to understand his intentions and put an immediate end to that cruel tyranny. The script called for a desperate desire to believe in the kind father, but as the silence dragged on, that trust began to crumble entirely. Following the script, the crown prince, overcome by betrayal, would explode in fury, making the king's actor yell, cursing the boy, until he noticed something off in the scene. Going completely off script, Jae-hoon suddenly draws his sword, demanding to know if someone dares challenge his majesty to a duel. Pulling the blade all the way out, he warns that throwing away family ties and bearing fangs like that will have severe consequences. The actor charges at one of the extra guards, declaring that the punishment for such audacity will be dealt out with the utmost severity. With the tip of the sword near the extra's face, the star demands with a dark look that the man drop to his knees and state his name. Showing a restrained smile, the guard threatens the prince with 300 lashes, revealing himself to be Kang, Min disguised flawlessly as a part-time extra. A recent memory shows the inside of a small office, where the MC's voice echoed applying for the temp gig on set. Lazily typing up his resume, he made up a dramatic backstory about being born into a happy family but getting kidnapped and sold off to the Philippines. Reading the screen over his shoulder, his partner asked if he needed a side hustle because he maxed out the credit card, but the kid assured her that expense was just pocket change. Enjoying some ice cream, the woman let out a confused murmur, not understanding why her coworker was spinning this whole absurd lie just to work on the drama. The job listing on the site confirmed an urgent search for extras for the historical drama starring exactly his new target. The partner questioned the point of all that effort, since the final goal was simply to get face with the show's star. Flashing a cunning smile, the undercover agent guaranteed that becoming a lowly extra would be a great pleasure if it ensured a successful approach. Back in the lit palace courtyard, the camera crew keeps rolling on the tense break from the script. The young star keeps his sword pointed steadily, repeating his demand for the guard to kneel and reveal who he really is. Without dropping his cocky act, Kang Min smiles and repeats the threat of 300 lashes, completely ignoring the scene's script. Furious at the mess on set, the director jumps out of his chair shouting to cut the recording right away. Yelling at the top of his lungs, the man demands to know what got into that crazy extra, cursing out the production crew and ordering them to drag the kid out of there. Being dragged away by security, the mercenary mockingly laments that he had poured his soul into that performance, while the producer screams that extras don't have lines. Trying to smooth over the awkward situation, Jae-hoon apologizes to the crew and agrees to shoot the take one more time. However, the actor frowns in confusion upon noticing a peculiar motion from that troublemaking extra being taken away. With a teasing smile, Kang Min brings an old fountain pen to his lips, tapping it lightly. The silver detail of the object shines, grabbing the star's absolute attention right in the middle of the set's chaos. The actor's mind is flooded with flashbacks from the night of the crime, perfectly remembering the pen dropped on the floor and the tense fight against the mysterious intruder in the dark. Utterly shocked by the silent reveal, Jae-hoon freezes in place, realizing the killer he faced at the agency is right in front of him. Outside the movie set, the massive production bus waits for the extras who have finished their scenes. Sitting comfortably in a seat, the mercenary hears the producer tell him to pack his bags and scram immediately. Maintaining his cocky vibe, Kang Min demands severance pay according to labor laws, infuriating the man that he's asking for benefits after working a grand total of 3 minutes. Red with anger, the producer screams at the top of his lungs. The kid clearly knows absolutely nothing about how this industry works. Pointing his finger in the agent's face, he swears there's a truckload of people begging for that spot, but is interrupted by a shout warning that they're short one extra for the next shot. The assistant director warns that if there's a hole in the scene, the director will fire the head of production on the spot, making Kang Min break into a wide smile at the irony of fate. The clapperboard snaps loudly, marking take one of the Crown Prince's big battle scene against the nocturnal invaders. The shout for action echoes through the palace courtyard again, kicking off the choreographed fight sequence. Glaring at the enemies with a heavy expression, Jae-hoon dramatically asks if this lethal attack is truly his father's will. Wearing the dark assassin garb, Kang Min steps forward entering the act, accusing the prince of finally crossing the line. The young star finds himself totally surrounded by the group of armed extras in the middle of the courtyard, lit only by torches. Skillfully dodging attacks, he yells his lines, accusing the king of being afraid of being called a tyrant for taking out his own son. The clash of fake blades echoes as the actor accuses the crown of trying to cover up the crime as if it were the work of foreign invaders. Gripping his sword tightly, Jae-hoon sizes up the group and indignantly questions if his father really had to send this many assassins to end him. Exploiting an opening in the mock combat, Kang Min lunges with a fast strike, forcing the star to block a dangerous blow that seems to go way beyond mere acting. Resuming action in the middle of shooting, Kang Min leaps gracefully from the palace roof wearing his dark suit. Focusing the camera lens excitedly, the director follows the scene and quickly calls for the next shot on the main set. With his back to the courtyard, Jae-hoon plays his character, warning that he will take the throne if the other has no intention to. In a swift move, the star draws his blade, declaring he will get the job done with his own 2 hands. The 2 fighters meet in an extremely violent clash of swords in the center of the lit courtyard. Staring at the adversary up close, the young actor realizes immediately that there is something very familiar about that masked extra. The director's eyes widen, completely shocked by the unexpected, brutal intensity of that exchange. Pressing his weapon, Jae-hoon finally recognizes the intruder, frustrated to see that the meddling security guy from the agency is still alive. The head of production pulls his hair in despair, thinking his career is over, but the filmmaker tells him to wait. The fake blades grind violently against each other, throwing sparks from the absurd force put into the direct block. The brutal impact creates a literal shockwave that kicks up dust all over the palace's stone floor. Prepping a new move, the star remarks that his opponent is the exact same guy from that day at the talent agency. Kang Min confirms his identity, calmly admitting that he is wearing the disguise of the person the actor defeated. Behind the cameras, the producer threatens to throw the kid out of there, but the director forbids it, ordering them to keep filming absolutely everything. With his glasses shining in excitement, the filmmaker is fascinated, hearing something incredible coming from that real battle. Completely captivated by the scene, the filmmaker clasps his hands, feeling the great monster of inspiration awaken inside him. Dry leaves blow in the wind as he declares that this tense sequence will become an unforgettable masterpiece. The fierce exchange of blows continues, unleashing thunderous impacts that promise to go down in the production's history. Delivering a heavy strike, Jae-hoon demands to know the real reason the mercenary showed up out of nowhere on that movie set. Dodging with pure mastery, Kang Min simply fires back a question, wanting to know the dark plans the actor is hiding. The technical crew watches anxiously, fearing the savagery of the blows might hurt someone, even though they trust the prop swords. Flipping right over his opponent in a highly acrobatic move, the star complains about the kid's lack of answers. Upon landing safely, the agent retorts, warning that he's decided to change how he communicates with the enemy from now on. The monstrous force behind Kang Min's move ends up slicing a solid stone pillar in half without the slightest effort. Jae-hoon lands in the courtyard, but tensely realizes that the brawl is getting way too dangerous and realistic. The extras notice the broken stone and are left bewildered, thinking the crew went all out on the practical effects. Kang Min's eyes narrow as he coldly calculates what his next move in the duel will be. Pulling his blade close to his face, the actor notes that everyone around is starting to find the level of that brawl suspicious. Even running the imminent risk of being exposed, he points out that the mercenary keeps up an annoying silence. Pushing for another direct attack, the star suggests the silence because of the nosy folks is listening to everything on set. The audio crew's boom mix swings through the air, picking up every tiny sound of the tense clash in the courtyard. One of the technicians takes off his headphones, confused about suddenly losing audio, while his support colleague tells him to clean his ears. Jae-hoon is intrigued, asking why the agent decided to go so far with this exhausting chase. Standing calmly after dodging a blow, Kang Min warns in a dark tone that he asked his question first. Perfectly disguised as a member of the sound crew, the casino partner watches everything, amazed by the situation. The violent blows of the clash spread damage across the set, which the crew mistakes for extremely well done practical effects. Amidst the rapid attacks, the actor asks if revealing his identity in front of everyone wouldn't put the agent in a tight spot. Without showing any strain, the mercenary jokes that his problem is absolutely nothing compared to the star's massive fame. Kang Min points out that the adversary could have already left the underworld behind thanks to his massive on-screen success. The violent clash of swords locks the two together again, while the kid demands clear and direct answers. With a sharp, judging glare, the MC demands to know why the actor keeps taking the lives of other people out there. A sudden, dark memory takes over his mind, showing the kitchen of a terrifyingly silent apartment. Near a dirty blade dropped on the floor, a woman's weak voice echoes, saying she lost too much blood to survive. The fallen victim in the shadows whispers in total resignation that her ultimate end has finally come knocking. Desperate at the tragic scene, a man approaches the sprawled body, asking why all this is happening. With a stained shirt and an apathetic face, Jae-hoon hears his own name called out in the midst of that painful tragedy. The actor stays completely silent, coldly staring at the wounded woman lying on the floor of her own home. The victim cries heavily, confessing she was always deeply curious to understand that star's mind. Lying on the kitchen floor, her body shows the massive frustration of trying to understand the love he claimed to feel for her. Displaying extreme coldness, the youth just turns his head, ignoring the woman's devastating final suffering. Without showing any remorse, he blames the victim herself for breaking into the apartment and seeing what she definitely shouldn't have. The woman lets out a final sigh of pure disappointment as she confirms the truly dark and cruel nature of the young man. Facing her imminent end with sorrow, she calls the actor a completely pitiful and empty figure. Coughing weakly, the victim points out how bizarre it is to breathe and share human warmth without being able to feel empathy. With tears streaming non-stop, she deduces that having no emotions is basically the same thing as being lifeless already. The dying woman's heavy and sincere words mark her last moments of consciousness on that cold floor. The young star absorbs the victim's final sentence, in complete silence, letting the apartment's darkness dominate the scene. Repeating the impactful phrase, he reflects on the unusual idea that the absence of feelings equals a premature end. A sudden noise breaks the actor's attention. He looks to the side, feeling a strange presence nearing the place. The memory of the veteran director pops into his head, defining an actor's job as the true art of performing emotions. The old mentor's advice echoes, explaining that understanding and expressing feelings makes a person dive into a real, tangible emotion. Displaying a faint, scary smile, Jae-hoon coldly declares that only while acting does he manage to feel alive. The actor's empty, calculating look contrasts bizarrely with the massive fame he flaunts on screens across the country. The late director extends an agency business card, inviting the young killer to try out the entertainment world. Returning to the tragedy's memory, the woman breathes her last while the star turns his head, completely indifferent to her passing. In the present, the film crew complains in annoyance about the ridiculous amount of dust blocking their view of the courtyard set. The producer coughs worriedly and asks if the situation is under control, but the director thinks the dirt fog is perfect for the scene. With his sword in hand, Jae-hoon steps forward slowly through the smoke, ready to resume the duel against the fake extra. Kang Min drags his weapon on the floor threateningly, highlighting that continuing the fight there will attract unwanted attention. In a firm, authoritative tone, the agent orders the target to follow him immediately so they can settle that tense business somewhere else. The duo walks stealthily, getting away from the crew until they reach the dark, quiet interior of the palace's old weapon armory. The actor checks out the rustic setting and remembers that the repair area is usually totally restricted. Satisfied with the choice, the star concludes the isolation of the place ensures they won't be interrupted by any production crew members. Without losing his arrogant confidence, he readies his blade again, asking what the invading mercenary's real plan is. Kang Min holds out a hand in an intimidating gesture, warning that from that moment on, he won't treat the target like a simple soap opera actor. Finishing his earlier threat, Kang Min coldly states that from now on, he will deal with the star as a true professional assassin. Showing zero concern, Jae-hoon pulls a long spear from the wall rack and arrogantly asks if the agent is really sure about this decision. With two short swords crossed in his hands, Kang Min taunts the target, assuring him that meeting his end, as just an actor, would have been a much more honorable way out. Already in position for a direct clash, the actor lets out a small grumble, slightly impressed to see the mercenary still holding onto all that unshackable, confident posture. Hoon's gaze goes totally dark and heavy with intensity, confessing he is extremely curious to find out one small detail about his opponent. In a fierce and sudden attack with the heavy spear, the star lunges, demanding to know exactly what kind of face the kid will make when he gets utterly defeated right after.